Yeah, we're off. Hi, guys. Hang on, Lou. Just hang on. Come here. Up you up.
I had the best 2 years of my life in prison. That's interesting you say that, Flo, because you had millions. I have peace though. Over the $30 million for one fight. Jay-Z's lying. Hey, listen, can I tell you something? That don't mean nothing when you don't have your peace, your stability, and your balance. You don't give for we don't even want it. You want to give it to somebody else. You need your sanity.
Hey, Guy. Hi, Phil. Good to see you guys.
Part of life. Because, you know, God, I always tell people, God punishes you by giving you everything you want. See if you can handle it.
Let's give God glory for the gift of life. Come on, I said, let's give God glory for the gift of life, that more abundantly. On this Women's History Month, I want every person standing.
I don't know this guy at all, so this is my first time watching him. So we'll see how he goes.
Every person standing, I want every sister to just stretch your right hand. Every sister, stretch your right hand to faith. Every sister, stretch your right hand to faith. And this month, I'm believing that God is going to do something special for the women in this sanctuary. He's going to do something supernatural for the women who are online. And all the more, God is going to bless every woman who is connected to your life. Your mother, your sister, your girlfriend, your daughter, your best friend. God is going to do something for women. Hallelujah. Because you've been carrying so much weight, so much stress. You've been juggling bowling balls and still have kept them all up in the air. I need you to do me a favor, please. Whatever is the first woman who comes to your mind, would you speak her name out loud? Whatever woman comes to your mind. I'm asking for Angel
Kamala. I'm asking for devils.
To now be dispatched to go chase that woman down.
Yep. Devils go and chase Kamala down.
I want every woman now, would you lift up both of those hands? Every woman, lift up both of your hands. Brother, if you'll just stretch your hand to whatever sister is closest to you. Lord, I pray that you'll touch every woman from the top of her head to the soles of her feet. Stop the migraine headaches. I pray, dear Lord, that you will anoint her with fresh focus. I pray that you will pull back every distraction. I pray, dear Lord, that you'll reach your hand into her body and anything that does not reflect your intention, pull it out of her even in this moment. I pray, dear Lord, that you'll bless everything that she has birthed. I pray, dear Lord, that you will put a hedge fence of protection around her. God, I pray that you'll give every woman a fresh wind so she doesn't burn out, so that she does not hit a brick wall or reach a corporate glass ceiling. God, I need a miracle to happen for sisters in this sanctuary. God, you know you can trust them with your praise and trust them with your name because you have trusted them with an inordinate way. And God, we give you glory for healing, for strength, for restoration, for mercy, and for miracles in Jesus' name. Would you give God glory for the sisters that are around you? Come on, you got to do better than that. Would you do me a favor? I need you to affirm and embrace two sisters around you and tell them,
okay, this is a black church. Most of them are black people. I've never seen a black church.
God's got something
not this big anyway.
Mind for your life. God's got something in mind for your life. God's got something in mind for your life. Hallelujah. You may be seated in the presence of the Lord. This Women's History Month, it is hard to fathom that it was not even 60 years ago. It wasn't even 60 years ago that banking institutions would not let a woman finance a home by herself. 60 years ago. And now black women make up 32%
This isn't going to be a whole sermon on black women, is it?
of all realtors. 85% of all interior decorators. Y'all not saying anything. Atlanta leads the world in black women who are homeowners. Y'all ain't saying nothing. We got some amazing Wonder Women in this room. Sister, if I'm talking about you, would you cheer for your doggone self? Come on, come on. We're thankful for your life, and not just your life, but we're thankful for your light. And I'm believing that this is a month that not only are you going to defy the odds, but this is going to be a month that you're going to make history. I need you to just nudge another sister and tell her, girl, you a history maker. With all that you've been through in your life and you still standing, you a history maker. You still got sanity. You still got the love of God. You still speak to them people. You are making history. I want us, because we are history makers, I wanted us to be mindful that all of us start at zero. We start at zero, but we don't end there. How many of you know that this is going to be a season of multiplication? Now, the reason why you're not clapping is because you didn't live through a season of subtraction. But those of you that know I serve a God that will multiply, because I started at zero. To know God is to know that zero is a very significant number in the Bible. When you add up, what are the things that can separate you from the love of God? Neither height nor depth. Y'all not saying anything. Look at your neighbor, tell them zero, zero. I want to ask you, how many words from God will return void? How many words from God? Everything God says is yea and amen. We serve a God that cannot lie. How many of you know that God will take zero and he will add into it and make it compounded? I can't hear no worshipers in here. I got to ask you, can you count up how many things are too hard for God? I can't hear anybody. I'm telling you, if God is your shepherd, how many things will you lack? Zero. I serve a God that when you start with nothing and you add God on top of it, God will do exceedingly abundantly beyond what you can think, what you can dream, what you can imagine. This is an area of your life that where you're going to see where God met you at ground zero and he added unto it daily. So give us this day our daily bread. That means you're going to get a blessing on Tuesday. You're going to get a blessing on Thursday. You're going to get a blessing on Saturday. Every time I turn around, he's making a way for me. We want to be mindful in this moment while we're giving to God.
Shawnee, I'll play that after this.
I don't know, when you think about how God has exponentially blessed your life.
They got something like 300 subscribers, so I'm a little bit worried about copyright.
And added to your life. How you sit in his presence and give him zero. There's no way that you can do it. As a matter of fact, whatever it is that you were planning on giving to God, you ought to add a zero to it. Amen. You ought to be multiplying. That's God to give some 20, some 60, some 80. But how many of you believe you're going to get a 100-fold increase? You're going to give a 100-fold increase based off of what it is that God has given to you. I want every person to secure your phone in this moment. I want you to get your phone in this moment. If you are giving up through your phone, I want you to get your phone even now. If you're writing a check, I want you to secure your checkbook even now. If you are giving currency, I want you to find your wallet, find your purse. Find your rubber band, whatever's holding your money. I want you to get it, and I want you to get it now, please, sir. Please, ma'am. I'll look at the person beside you and tell them, I dare you to add a zero. I dare you to add a zero. Get a zero behind it. Watch what God will do. Watch how God will multiply. Watch how God will exceed your expectation. Oh, don't give God 5, give him 50. Don't give him 20, give him 200. Add a zero to it. Because I'm telling you, God is getting ready to add to your life. On this, the first Sunday of March, this is the only month that gives you direction. You got to march. You got to move ahead. You cannot stay stagnant when you are under the grace and under the guidance of God. How many of you believe you are going forward? You are going forward. You all don't believe it? You can't go backwards. You got to go forward. And I want my giving to go forward. I want my lifestyle to go forward. I want my children to go forward. I do not want to go backwards for nothing in the world. I want you to get that seed. Pastor, on this, the first Sunday of March, I want to thank God. He's brought me to the first quarter. He helped me to thrive through January. Helped me to rise to February. But March, I'm telling you, ain't no stopping us now. We're on the move. I want you to get that seed in your possession. Dear friends who are online, what must I render unto God for all of these blessings? God made everything, and everything belongs to him. And as a consequence, we are a tithing church. We give 10% of what God has given to us. We give it back over to him. Would you lift up that envelope, please? Lift up your phone if that's how it is that you're giving. I want you to lift it up, please. Repeat after me. Lord, thank you for what you did last month, for what you did last year, for what you did last week, for what you did yesterday. But the seed in my hand is in expectation for what you're going to do in the month of March. In Jesus' name, amen. Our servant leaders, they're going to be amongst you to receive your gift, your seed, your investment into the body of Christ, as that every person has added a zero, amen, to what it is that you are giving, what it is that you're sharing. As is our culture, our custom here at New Birth, if you want to sow your seed for yourself, the altar is open for you to be able to do that. While they are coming, might I share with you that on this coming Tuesday, you ought to make all provision to be in the church on Tuesday for our group therapy study. I am going to be sharing and teaching you how to budget.
Hey, Lars, good to see you, mate.
How to budget for abundance. An old rabbi taught me years ago.
Guys, how's he going? Is this guy worth watching?
Taught me years ago, don't ask people to tithe if you've not taught them how to budget. You can't ask people for 10% if they're not accountable for the 90. He said something that I found to be 100% true. People who don't tithe don't have a budget. It's hard for you to ask them for their 10%. They have absolutely no earthly clue as to where that 90 is. So I'm going to be sharing with you handouts as to how it is that you set a budget for your family, handouts for how it is that your children would be able to learn budgeting. I'm going to give you a couple of apparatuses that you can use that I believe will take you to infinity and beyond and show you how to establish a savings account and an investment.
Okay, I've seen enough of that guy. Sorry about him. Sorry, guys. Haven't really got anything backed up yet either. Oh, where did... Hang on. Right, hang on, guys. I'm loading that one Shawnee sent. Oh, no, that's not it. Hang on, guys. I'm trying to look at the one Shawnee sent. Got it. That didn't load. Yes, it did.
Tell you what, guys, my heart is heavy for what is going on in this world and how rapidly it is now changing and becoming more explicit and open and getting away with that explicitness. And with the whole thing, it is incremental. Slow and steady wins the race. Who wins out of the tortoise and the hare? It's the tortoise. So it has been very incremental over the last, especially over the last 50 odd years. It seems to have picked up pace gradually. But recently, I mean, it's not even 5 years now before everything shifts at an incredible rate. So that should give you some idea of the stage of the birth pangs, as Christ said, as in a mother in labour, these things
Hey, Kate, good to see
like
you.
birth pangs, and it is the birth pangs that are now increasing towards this new age that they want to happen. But these things have been around us all through our lives. Those of us in this generation, we've grown up with these things, just like The Lion King, which was a massive film. What was The Lion King about? The
I've never watched The Lion King.
Lion King is the Antichrist. It's the promised one. And this movie just had it all over it. What are the chances that in the Lion King movie, the Rafiki anoints the head of Simba at the start of the movie? And actually, they're very, very clever with these things, because not only does he anoint the head,
Wow.
because what he anoints the head with, actually, it shows a very brief second, subliminal, that he's cracking open the sun. He breaks open, gets the oil, the anointing out of that. And to cut a long story short, they believe Simba's dead. He ends up in a barren land with Timon and Pumbaa. Then there's water in the barren land. He grows up and returns as the promised one.
He's alive. He's alive.
Right, so the reason I'm covering this really is not just to expose that this movie is full of indoctrination of young children. We already know that. That's just a given, unfortunately. Now we're accepting that that is the standard. But this has got some really interesting clues as to the elitist plan and how they work with the Hegelian dialectic, which is just the same thing again. Scar is that evil dragon, and Simba, or the Lion King side, is the golden. It's both the same beast. And often you'll see Scar attributed with the moon in it. At some points he's like the capstone with the moon behind him. And then you'll get the other side, which is the sun. It's all part of the same beast. And that is the trick. That's one of the biggest tricks in the book. If you can understand that, you understand their methodology. So this whole thing is a completely Hegelian battle, and something that really woke me up whilst watching The Lion King the other night is exactly the method they are using to deceive people, even the truth movement. And what they're doing is they want people to think that the New World Order is satanic. Now, I'm going to redefine what I just said there, because that may sound very strange to you, but I believe this is the truth. They want you and the masses to believe that this system needs to be disbanded. This system is wicked. So Scar is, I'll show you in a second, is in his song Be Prepared. He is singing about this New World Order and posing as a Hitler-type figure with Nazi soldiers, and that's what they want you to think. They want you. This is why the controlled truth movement are pushing and pushing and pushing.
Gee, that's pretty creepy. I've never seen Lion King, but gee, that looks interesting. I should watch it with my Oz eyes.
Saying this is satanic. The elite are satanic. They are evil. This system is evil. Why is that? Because they want you to accept the sun, as in the Lion King, as in the false love and the false peace. They want you to root for whatever good comes along to defeat this evil system. So at this stage in the game, it's the externalization of the hierarchy. They want you to know that they are satanic and that this whole thing is satanic, because the so-called Messiah, which is the false Messiah, will come along at whatever stage of the game that happens. That figure will come along and say, look, here's the answer: peace, unity, love. But it's the same thing. There's many in the New Age movement who think the Golden Age is a good thing. Listen, New Age. Think about it. New Age. This is what the New World Order is. It is the New Age. You're just playing into the Luciferian lie. Black versus white. It's like the alchemy of it. They want to turn lead into gold. The black cube, lead. The gold cube. It's the defeat of the dragon by the false Jesus. This is what this is. This is what's happening. They want you to think that by the onset of this New Age love, world unity, they want you to think that that is the victory over Satan. But it's not. Satan is a masquerader as light. So it's literally just the defeating of the black by the white, but it's the same beast. Christ is the only way out. The real Christ, the one who was sacrificed on the cross and died for our sins over 2,000 years ago. He is the truth. Every religion across this world is going to accept the Antichrist as being a defeat of the dragon, but it isn't. In fact, love shall be the whole of the law, Crowley. Love shall be the whole of the law. But if you stand against their wickedness or their plans or their agenda, you will be seen or disrupting the only hope we have of true peace on earth. If you don't love their plan and their ideologies, Luciferian ideologies, then you will be seen as the one not loving, and you will be put to death. And that is not true love. There is no true love of this world. In this world, it's complete deception. So as I said, this has been in our faces for ever so long. There's a clip that they removed from The Lion King that was a pilot that didn't make it into the final thing. And Scar even sings of the Golden Age. Listen here.
Didn't you hear me?
No.
Take her away. I am the king. You must do as I say. So prepare for a glorious future. Be prepared for the bright golden age.
I don't know why they took it out, but it's pretty blatant. So anyway, he's singing about the same thing. It's the same beast, right? So what's he singing in Be Prepared? In order to bring about the false peace.
The figures you
prepare
are.
for the chance of a lifetime. Be prepared for sensational news. A shining new era is tiptoeing nearer. Where do we feature? Just listen to Teacher. I know it sounds sordid, but you'll be rewarded when at last I am given my dues. And injustice deliciously squared. Be prepared. I will be king. Stick with me and you'll never go hungry again. Sounds like the Mark of the Beast right there, right? Listen to what else he says here. It's great that we'll soon be connected with a king who'll be all-time adored. Of course, quid pro quo, you're expected to take certain duties on board. The future is littered with prizes, and though I'm the main addressee, the point that I must emphasize is you won't get a sniff without me. So, right, and this is where it gets really blatant, okay? Remember, this is the same beast, but they want you to think that this one's evil and the Messiah, the false Messiah, is good, but it's the same system. It's still the New World Order. It's still the Golden Age of Satan.
Prepare for the coup of the century. is stunning. Probably is Biden. And the Islam moon crescent, there's a crescent of the Islam. In fact, that looks like a, what do they call them? They're monster towers with the crescent moon at the top.
The thesis, the antithesis, and the synthesis. So the thesis is the starting point. Then you have the antithesis, which is the opposite of the thesis, working through to the synthesis where they are both merged together in a so-called higher truth. Two opposing things become merged as one.
Escape from God.
You have eaten the fruit, my single commandment, and you have broken it. Is it to die?
Escape.
Okay, that was very interesting. I'd like to see an in-depth one of that.
Lunchtime cravings kicking in? Relieve them with Nicorette, the #1 stop smoking brand in Australia.
Looking for more? Bottle Mart is for in store.
When did he post that?
This. You are going to be really blessed today
Shawnee, did he post that in the last couple of days, did he?
because not only do we have just a fantastic guest, one of your favorites, but he's also joining me in studio. He drove down to be here with us. So please welcome Scott Townsend. Scott, this is great having you here.
Thank you very much, Tom. Great to be here.
It's wonderful. Whenever we can get a guest to actually come to the studio, man, it's just off the charts. And so, Scott, you are a technologist. We first met, I think, back in 2019 when we had a conference out in the desert.
Right.
And you've been such a blessing to the entire prophecy community, I guess you would call it, or community of eschatology. And what
And
a
the
blessing.
Watchman community, too.
The Watchman community. That's really what this comes down to.
Yeah,
So
it does, yeah.
you are the founder of I Am a Watchman.
Right.
And it's really helping to equip people. You're one of the tech people that really helps all the tech people to understand. In fact, we have a podcast. You have a podcast you regularly do with Britt Gillette.
That's right.
John Haller, and I think also Patrick Wood.
Yes.
And it's just fantastic.
Right.
And but we're just going to get going. If you're ready to go,
I am ready.
well, okay,
It's
I'm
good
just
to
going
be
to
here.
fire this off. Okay, so Scott, you're referred to as a
Yeah.
watchman. Can you please explain what that is, where it comes from, and how it shapes what you do?
So I think
Yeah, I missed it, Shawnee. I stopped it about with a minute to go. I thought it was over.
that being a watchman is some debate whether it's a calling or a responsibility. And I'm in between those two positions. When you are looking out into the distance, like you're on a wall, Ezekiel 33, and you're looking out for warning signs and dangers, and you're trying to alert those that you're protecting that danger is coming. In today's world, we don't walk around on a wall. We are looking at outwardly on the internet, we're looking at news. cycles and everything else. And we're trying to interpret what we see based on the Bible, not on conjecture, but on what the Bible says about what we're expected to have in these days. And we are helping to warn people about that. And so at a fundamental level, a watchman is someone that cares enough to intercede for people and to explain, help them connect the dots about what is happening today. Because
I gotta fix the glare up.
A,
Okay,
are
will you
not
get out of the
always
way?
biblically
Bloody hell,
literate
get
with
out the
the Old
way.
Testament and the prophets, especially like
Get out the
Daniel's
way,
coming
Cat.
to life right now, for sure.
Look at
And
Cat, he's in the
also,
way.
They just have not heard this from the platform, from pastors right now. And so there's a big role for people, the church, the Watchman community, step in there and help people.
Refocus.
So someone like me equips the saints in a particular way based on my pastoral leadership for many years, and also in my eschatology, because I've been teaching eschatology for a long time. You equip the equippers, but you also help the people to understand. And I this is a real blessing. I meet a lot of pastors across the entire country, even in other.
Don't say hello
other
to him, he's
countries
being
too.
annoying.
But if I think just here in the United States, a lot of guys I've known for years, we've been friends. And one I just had a conversation with last week. And he said, I really want to teach Bible prophecy. He teaches every Sunday. He's been doing it for decades. But I don't really understand it that well. And he said, would you be willing to come in and teach sometime, or even help me to kind of understand Bible prophecy where I could teach it sometimes? I said, absolutely. I said, we can put together a conference for you. I can send you some outlines to help get you started or whatever you want to do. And you bring it to a level to really put this together to equip people like that. Because a lot of the churches that are teaching Bible prophecy, it's not that they're against it. There's many that are. But it's not that they're all against it if they're not teaching it, but they don't really know where to start.
That's right. And it's a little bit overwhelming, let's admit, Tom.
It is.
You can go off the deep end quickly in this area. And so, but what we want to do is make sure that pastors are equipped with the fundamentals of what the word says, and that's what our mutual friend, James Panafino here, his Perspectives in Prophecy is an excellent resource. And he has a Bible study on his website that allows anybody to basically host a Bible study in their Sunday school group, or that is eschatologically, equipping in that sense. And where I think most of my passion right now is to help the normal body of Christ person out there to have the right resources to leave behind, in addition to Pastor Panafino's information and your material too, to equip the tribulation saints that are going to be coming in after we're gone.
Yeah.
I think it's just, I think it's great. We're going to get into some of the tech things currently in a minute.
Okay.
But let me ask you
I hate when it
little bit more
glares.
going along these lines. So you've been involved with both technology and ministry for years. So how has your background in technology shaped your, I guess you'd say, your understanding of prophecy and your approach to what you do?
Well, that's a good question. I because I do have a tech background, and I've had, mostly in software development and startups, I have a really good appreciation and understanding of tech and how to apply that tech to project the gospel and teaching resources into the future, both for today and in the future. And so it's missional. I call myself at this point in my Christian walk, a missionary to tribulation saints is how I express, what I really feel my passion is right now. And any means that we can do that. Websites, I've got a Web 3.0 website. So a decentralized website. I've got different tech levers, including the Rapture Kit USB drives that allow us to preserve the teaching and word of God, the Bibles, all of the things that are needed for tribulation saints and for people today. Because look, we have a big mission field today, and people do not fully understand yet what is happening. And so these resources come in just as they do from your ministry, Tom, and they are helping to unravel kind of, the noise and confusion and the distraction and even the deception out there, and try to reduce it down into what the essentials are for people to know.
That's good. It's great. With Trump's recent victory, we see the dynamic or things are going to change. It's likely to have some significant biblical implications, or I would say global implications, but also biblical at the same time. Do you believe that this could mark a turning point in the trajectory of prophecy?
Well, certainly, I think every day we get closer, right? So I think that I've been watching very carefully on what has happened during the election, and I have two minds about it right now, Tom. One side is a huge sigh of relief that we get to put some of the more extreme left stuff, and that gets shoved aside a little bit right now in this next season. But on the other hand, I think that I still see a Hegelian dialectic process going on, and it's hard for me as I look at other people and what their interpretations of everything are. You see the Watchman community saying, "Hey, Trump is not an idol. Don't put him in that position. He's a flawed human being, just like we are. And let's see this as an opportunity to kind of come back towards the center or even more to the right." So I think that from that point of view, we have to be careful and discerning about what is happening with his agenda and his policies. But I am encouraged by it.
Yeah, I would say same thing. My concern with the church is, okay, now we have this victory and everybody can just chill out. I believe now we need to press forward harder than ever before. I agree. We have a window of opportunity to do something. It's almost like God is saying, okay, here you go. Here's your opportunity. What are you going to do? And I think in a sense, I would even say that it's a test. But I view it, and I voted for Trump. I'm thankful for this. I feel like I could breathe. Same thing. Like I wake up on Wednesday morning, I'm thinking I feel like I can breathe. But when Constantine came to power, what happened? Suddenly, the church is no longer going to be persecuted, and then you have this rise in the state.
Gee, that's a good comparison, Constantine. Wow.
But you have all these other different dynamics that changed after that. That really, in that persecution, the church was growing.
Get a better night's sleep for less at Bedshed and save up to half price on leading brand mattresses in Sunday.
It's run out time on the D90 Executive 4-wheel drive diesel. With 7 seats, get the large LDV D90, loaded with premium comfort and smart tech from only $47,990 drive away for APN holders. Visit a dealer today. LDV.
I wish I could do something about the glare.
You start looking at countries where the church is persecuted, right? The church grows. Look at this. That's my concern. Is that with believers, especially people of Bible prophecy, there's one side of Bible prophecy people who are just calling Trump the devil, and that to me doesn't. I just don't see the fruit in that. But the other side that concerns me is now we don't really have to do anything.
That's right.
And that's just insane.
No, I think we have to push as hard as we can right now.
Absolutely, and I'm concerned that people are going to be really lulled to sleep during this time.
It could be. But I think the globalists still exert a tremendous amount of pressure, and there's plenty of dominoes they could take.
It's good to hear him say that, because a lot of the channels we watch, guys, they're all endorsing Trump. So it was hard to find something that we liked that wasn't endorsing Trump.
Over, that'll distress the church. So we have to be careful.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, we can see which I want to get to some of these things. Yeah. All right. As we look at this, what do you see coming, let's say in the next 6 months? There's a new president. Now, granted, this could all change within the next week. Somebody could be assassinated. The whole thing could change. But as of right now, where do you see this going?
Well, I think that that's really hard to predict, obviously, but I hope that the new administration comes in and things begin to improve for us in the United States. As you said, it might be a reprieve of sorts. And I think that if you look at the role of Israel in the end times, certainly our role to support Israel and to transfer arms and other support measures that we do is exceedingly important in this time, because we know that what they're going to be facing in the future, right? Ezekiel 38. And we just, there's a role there. I don't know that anyone's smart enough on the planet to actually understand exactly what's going to happen. So I think that there's going to be a lot of content for you can't make this stuff up. I think you're still going to have a lot of content for that you do, which I love those episodes that you do. So it's just so important that we grasp what is really happening here. And the idea of a left-right paradigm and the opposite of the controlled opposition, and now we were bent really far left, and now we're swinging right. We've got to be very cautious about how we get lulled into this safety procedure, because I just think it could be very volatile as well.
Scott, moving forward with that, let's talk a little bit about digital currency, because if we go back just a few months, it was really hanging over our head. This thing's going to shut down. We're going into digital currency. Do you think that dynamic has slowed down some?
Not
or
at
it's
all.
still coming? Okay.
It's coming.
Okay.
Yeah, it's coming like a freight train. Yeah.
I think I heard about Alex Jones with Trump as well. I highly doubt it, guys. Like, Alex Jones is bankrupt, he's losing everything. I don't see how he could pull this off. They're talking about him being a press secretary, aren't they? Be good if he did use Alex Jones.
Our mutual friend Britt Gillette just wrote up an excellent article on a Substack about the steps leading up to digital currencies and eventually to the market of these. And he did a linear process of disclosing that in his best thinking. I highly regard Britt's understanding of macroeconomics and digital currencies as well. So I also believe that there's no way this is going to stop. And I think that the precursor to this is going to be some kind of a financial problem where people panic. And remember,
so they agree with us. This isn't going to stop just because Trump's in power. They get this too. That's good to know. That's why I like Tom Hughes. Pat, go away.
In the Hegelian dialectic, this is what the elites are trying to do. They inject noise and chaos into the system in order to move people center, from left into the center and from the right into the center for the proposed solution, which is according to their plans, right? So I think that eventually all the control mechanisms, the CBDCs, the real world asset, tokenization of assets and the physical assets in the real world, and all of the other technologies that we see beginning to, we're past, I like to say that we're past convergence. Convergence was the word we used to describe all the things that were happening as a way of distinguishing this season, which began about 10 years ago, against all the other decades in which people thought it was the end times. So what was unique about the word convergence was that it described a new state to what we see in Bible prophecy. Well, I believe that the word convergence is agent. It's not conveying what we need it to convey anymore. And I like to call it, we are beginning to not only see the beast system being set up real time in front of us, but we're also smelling the tribulation at this point. And we could literally see, 5 years ago, Tom, would you ever have imagined seeing?
I think out of all them, Tucker Carlson would be the best candidate for press secretary. Alex Jones is, even though we agree with what Alex Jones says, he's just too way out there to be secretary. That's just my opinion. Even though most of what he says is true.
What we see today.
Oh, no way. I didn't, right?
Yeah.
I mean, because just go back to 2019, 2020 hadn't hit yet. We know what happened. And the entire dynamic has changed. So earlier this morning, I was having a cup of coffee and I was thinking, my mind went back to February, March of 2020. And next thing I know, Klaus Schwab's book, The Great Reset, all the events that unfolded, you're thinking, this is interesting. We are still in it. As I look at these different things that are taking place. I appreciate so much your input. So central bank digital currencies, and it's a key to also differentiate a key to understanding, differentiate between centralized digital currency and decentralized. Can you explain the difference in those and, and where do you see Bitcoin going and Ethereum and the others?
So normal crypto, that would be Bitcoin as the granddaddy, and you've got Ethereum as number 2 position in market share, and then you've got thousands and thousands of other variants of crypto, and they are all decentralized. They run on blockchain, and it is a digital ledger that is used to memorialize transactions. Okay, once a transaction gets into the blockchain, it cannot be altered unless there's permissions to do that. So it is important to know that the centralized version, the CBDCs are different than the normal blockchain that we know today because they are programmable, Tom. And that nuance, which very few people are aware of that, means, and you hear the World Economic Forum talk about programmable digital currency. And I think her name is Malmgren, is a big proponent of that. She gave a speech 2 years ago on programmable and what it means to them. Well, that's ultimately a lot of control because they can put policy and decisions about what is in your wallet based on their rules. And so you can read into if you are doing something that is not aligned with the world government eventually.
What a horrible death dying. Wow.
Can turn things on and off in your wallet without you even having any point of control over it. And that's why centralized currency like that is going to be a very bad deal. And the question, the million-dollar question right now is, will we see that as the bride of Christ, as the church, before we're gone? I don't know.
That's a great question. I'd like to actually work out what will we possibly see before the rapture. I was talking with Bill Feder. I don't know if you know William Feder.
I've heard of him.
He over the weekend, and he is a historian, absolutely brilliant. We were talking about Alex Newman is at the COP meeting right now, the climate meeting, and so Alex and I were talking a little bit about that. But these digital currencies say will be tied into such things as the climate laws. So talking with Bill Feder, he brought up a very interesting point. He goes, we have a window of opportunity. We don't know how long this window is going to be open. Close at any time. He goes, one of the most foolish things that human beings do, and they've done it throughout history, is they let their guard down and thinking everything's good. He said, these globalists are not done. He goes, they're waiting they're going to have their window of opportunity. As soon as they see a crack in the door, they're going to pounce back. Like in Genesis, where we read sin is crouching at the door, waiting for you. It never goes away. These globalists, says they aren't going away. They're like cancer that's in remission right now, just waiting to come back. And he said they will pounce back way harder than they did before.
That's right. I absolutely agree with you. Yeah. So it's like now you have to talk. What comes in scope when we talk about digital currencies now is a part of that. Is what is the precursor event that makes people scramble to think that CBDCs are the answer that they need? So that has to do with the proposed reset, the Great Reset from the World Economic Forum and the Agenda 2030. So all of these elite global policies are designed to break, the world markets. And I and Britt and others, I spend most of my time looking at China and their stability and debt. I look at Japan is very fragile right now in that regard as well, and other countries are struggling with debt and with other things. And we, by the way, have out of control spending problem and debt. And so it's very easy to imagine that a bank here or there will fail, and all of a sudden the FDIC decides that, well, we're not going to rescue you. And Janet Yellen has said as much a couple of years ago. And so the thing is, we will have this situation where panic ensues and bank runs happen. And I think that when people realize that what they thought was their wealth in their 401ks or their bank accounts, et cetera, and all of a sudden that gets exposed in a way that is very destabilizing for their understanding, for their needs. And I think that that's very, very frightening for most people to think about. But if the government says, hey, we have a solution for you. And if you sign up in the next 90 days, this is my conjecture. This is not going to happen, but I'm thinking creatively here that if you sign up in the next 90 days, we'll give you a bounty if you sign in as a bonus. So not only will we restore the previous value you have, but we'll pay you to adopt it. And there's just this cascading snowball.
Okay.
And, yeah.
All right. So with this, I've been hearing for quite some time through friends of ours, and it makes sense to me that
This is Jules and Toby. Jules got everyday pet insurance from Woolworths and gets 10% off a Woolworths shop every month.
If you're talking exterior paint that's durable and protects against tough Aussie weather, you're talking.
something will happen, and it sounds like this is what you're saying, that will collapse the economy. It'll be done intentionally in order to, it'll be a massive crisis has to take place in order to get people on board with it. They're completely wiped out unless you, my 401k, it's gone, whatever it is. You have bills to pay, you have rent, you have a mortgage, you have groceries.
It's frightening. It's frightening to think of about this actually.
So do you envision something like that happening overnight? We wake up or we go to work on Monday morning, everything is shut down. And will be the
Diane, he'd be cooked, wouldn't he? After 3 days, he would be cooked. And as if the smell wouldn't permeate the building.
Something like that, a massive crisis.
Well, if we look back at 2008 and the Lehman Brothers crisis that happened, some of it was rolled out over a period of times, but some of it just happened immediately. And so I think we'll see a pattern like that too. I don't think that they can coordinate the world like that, but I do think that it can happen at a push of a couple dominoes, and then the next phase of all of that will come in. So I think that people are, and I want to make sure that I'm clear. I'm not predicting that this will happen or that we will be here to witness that, but there will be some chaos that happens, a black swan event, if you will, that will shatter this.
Hey, Talia, good to
world
see
as
ya.
we know it today and cause the actual Great Reset to actually happen. Right now, the restraining force of us in the church is there. We have the Lord's sovereignty. He's not permitted it yet. And so we don't know where that boundary is. But the implications are very frightening. And what I've tried to do, Tom, is this is scary. It's scary for me too, to think about this. So I've had to kind of reimagine what does fear and anxiety look like for me. And I've realized, I'm going to rethink about that. If I feel those emotions, I'm now going to let that roll off my back like a duck in water, beads off of their feathers. And I'm going to try to understand that this is the shortness signal. This is a signal that we are almost done with our shift here. And we are about to be, into the end of the church age, and the rapture will occur. And then, basically all hell will break loose at that point. So when the restraining force of the church is there and the Lord sovereignly permits this to go forward, the Antichrist will come for seal. And then we'll see what happens. We'll not be here to do that, but it's frightening to contemplate what will happen for those that are left behind.
Indeed it is. I liken the time that we are in right now, even with the election, where people are saying, and we got some breath. We can breathe.
It's decompressing.
It's decompressing is a sign in and of itself. Because when you look at the biblical signs, you have a few different times where I could point out in the Bible. One of them is Jesus says it's going to come at a time when you least expect it. If you just go back over the last 4.5, 5 years, everybody's on the edge. It's going to happen today. It's going to happen. Suddenly they're okay. There was a case in point with one of my friends. He's at Home Depot. The other day after the election, this lady was so excited. It's not the end of the world. It's not the end of the world. He's trying to talk her, gets a biblical sense to her. She didn't want anything else. She was just like, and so to me, this is another sign, this kind of lull that we're in right now, or whatever it is that we could call it, which causes me to think, man, we better be prepared. I want to ask you a little bit more about how some of these things will be implemented, because I have some challenges in the thought process with that. But before we go there, Scott, I'm just thinking, you've developed a lot for after we are left behind. Mm-hmm. Or no, I should say we.
Yeah.
After those who don't know Christ are left behind, develop a lot of things for them. But with this, Scott, where is our hope for the person who's looking right now and going, this sounds scary, because we're probably going to get in a few more scary things over the next few minutes. This sounds scary, but where's our hope?
Our hope is in the Lord, and that's the biggest challenge for people today, to really reduce everything down. We've seen systems come and go. We've seen hope and things getting crushed by forces outside of our control. We've been subject to a fallen world and to the manipulations and machinations of elites and globalists all over the world. And I think that we're in perilous times. I think it will get a lot worse. So what we should be doing is realizing, all right, I get it. And there's this clarity that comes when we examine the Bible and what it says. So for many years, I was saved in 1978, Tom. No one taught me this stuff until I finally began to get exposed to Bible prophecy 8 years ago. And I'm embarrassed to say this, but I didn't even understand the full trajectory or the plan of salvation completely. I didn't understand about the millennium and about the eternal state. No one taught that in church, And I think a lot of people are in that kind of situation. So I think that our hope needs to be on biblical truth and understanding Jesus has this. We are the beloved bride, and he is going to have his will. He's already the overcomer that defeated this world. And if we don't have that perspective, we're going to get tossed to and fro. And yes, we're swinging right in our country right now, and there's extremely good beneficial things for economies and world trade and for helping Israel in a more formal way that is less frictional, if you will. So I imagine that the incoming administration will be doing really good things. And I know that Netanyahu and many others in Israel are very excited. So I think that that's going to be wonderful. But let's not be under the illusion that we're actually going to sustain this reprieve, this decompression, this sigh of relief that finally the cackling person is not going to be in office. And so I just think that, we have to have the right perspective. And yes, it's wonderful to experience a sense of almost relief and joy that things will get back kind of a little bit, but that doesn't mean that we're out of the woods yet. I think it will continue to get worse.
We're definitely not out of the woods yet.
Yeah.
Thinking of Israel, that's a whole nother.
Okay, the first Christian channel I've heard say that we're not out of the woods.
Dynamic. I would love to have some time to talk about that, but we'll skip that for right now. With digital currencies, or CBDC, centralized, not all countries are on board. Not all systems are being built are the same. The U.S. has what they want to do. China has what they want to do. So to get this going, there's going to be even a lot of friction with that, or it's going to be a lot of difficulty to be able to develop a system that the Antichrist could control, it seems.
I don't know that's, my perspective has matured recently. And remember, Tom, I'm in the crypto. I do blockchain, that stuff. So what I'm seeing right now, my only question is who is behind each country's implementation of blockchain and crypto? Because the Bank of International Settlements has said, we are the world's central bank. And it's true. They are the ones that are above each country has its own central bank, and all of them do clearing transactions through the Bank of International Settlements. So in my view, as I think about it, and there's a map, you could see where is each country in its implementation of CBDCs.
Okay, thanks,
We're well
Di.
enough advanced in there that this is real and it's happening and it's working.
Usually comes on 1:15 my time, which is
So what I see
15 minutes
is,
away.
where my question is how does this roll up from these countries in a compatible way so that the Bank of International Settlements can hand this to the Antichrist to control the world? And therefore, my private thought, this is me thinking, okay, critical thinking right here, is that although each country has its own branding for the central bank digital currency, I believe it's based on roughly the same architecture, so that if and when, and this has been planned, I'm sure, for it to be rolled up and consolidated into one point of authority, that is easy to do.
Okay, and that answers a huge question that I've had. How would that happen? I've watched some things on the Bank of International Settlement. Very interesting, especially when you look at that in light of something like the Federal Reserve and what each nation has. Very interesting, knowing that you also have 10 kings.
Yeah.
10 leaders who will give their power and authority to the beast. Is that somehow tied into the digital currencies?
Good
that are
question.
planned by the different nations. So I just find it also fascinating. And by the way, everybody, I want to ask you, just take out a minute here to ask you to like, subscribe, and share. It's the only way we can really get these videos out there is with your help. I really would appreciate it. It's free to do that. Like, subscribe, and share. And thank you so much just for doing that part for us. Really appreciate it. What is Scott? Okay. AI is increasingly becoming a part of daily life. What do you see are the biggest challenges believers will face with AI as it continues to integrate into society?
So that's a really deep question. But one thing that I think is that AI is getting better and better at, this question response format that it does. And it's very capable of doing many things. Where I have a red line, Tom, and I use AI every day because I'm developing software, and it's very, very good at helping to accelerate software development. But I do not ask AI for its opinion about anything, especially about biblical matters. That is a red line. Do not want to trust something that has been trained by sources that are not that are of the world and that are of a fallen nature like that. We don't want to confuse, where that boundary is, because I've heard already people that are asking AI, create a sermon on this topic, use these verses, spit it out for me. I want it to be 2,000 words, and it will do it.
Oh, I know.
And on the surface, it looks really good, actually. It's surprising, actually.
Yeah.
But it's like a seduction. AI can seduce people into this false sense of trust. And I've experienced moments where I got creeped out when certain responses in my daily work were giving me back responses that were oddly affirming to me. And, oh, that's such a good question. And it's like the next form of dopamine hit from social media. So we're moving from Facebook ding or a text message, notification ding, to AI affirming people. And this was dopamine. It's well documented that people
So what happened in Talia, isn't
let their
it?
device down. They have to go look at what just happened. And it's a form of addiction almost. And I think what's coming as AI seeps into the systems of this world, smart devices, phones, computers, watches, that voice, that persona that AI can present to you is going to be the next form of attraction and dopamine. Like, I can't get enough of being complimented by AI. The smartest thing in the world is complimenting me for my thinking. Yeah, I could see that being a big problem.
Wow, that's a huge when you start to put it in that perspective. When you think of the demonic side, the spiritual dynamic that's behind these things, and you look at where we are, just how fast things have increased with technology, and you consider that it has to be the mind of a man, the brain of a person that was able to put something together and go, oh yeah, wait, I have an idea. I've seen interviews with a couple of tech people from Silicon Valley that have said they've had a vision come to them while they were doing whatever, their yoga or whatever.
Well, they're microdosing, LSD and things
yeah,
like that.
and so these things are coming to them, but they work.
Yeah.
And they implement them.
And that's just like the satanic, thing. This is happening all over the place. It's a lie, but there's benefits to aligning yourself with that kingdom, the Antichrist kingdom. People look at Hollywood. They're rich, they're famous, they're influential, but it's all based on, things that are highly satanic and demonic. So something that we are commanded to avoid.
Well, yeah, and also just a word of caution to anybody out there that hears these things when you think, well, can the devil really be in these details? Well, yes, I think of Jesus himself being tempted by the devil himself. What do you say? You see all the kingdoms of the world. I have the power to give you these things. Jesus didn't challenge the devil's power and authority to give him those things.
Right.
But what he did is he brought back the word of God and basically pushed the devil away. So the devil is the god of this world. He's given that authority at the time of Adam and Eve. So Satan is still going to tempt and test people with the same thing. I will give you this if you just give me your allegiance. I'll give you the ability to do this. And think of the power you'll have.
Yeah.
Think of the authority that you'll have. Think of the riches you have. I believe it affects all of Hollywood, the tech world, and so forth. So you look at it from a biblical teaching perspective, an interpretation on Bible theology. It's there in the Bible. That principle is taught, especially when you see it in Jesus being tempted in such a way as that. Global surveillance is expanding with satellite coverage. How should Christians navigate the increasing pressure of being monitored, both for personal privacy and faith-based reasons?
At the end of the day, we can't stop it. You've got satellites. You look at SpaceX launching all the Starlinks up there. There's 4,600 satellites right now that form a mesh network. And those are communication based, and the military and other government agencies have tons of satellites that can zoom in on you, and they could get resolutions down to a meter squared. And so with all the cameras on the traffic lights and everything perched up high, you just can't escape being surveilled nowadays. In fact, I'm sure that Alexa and others are sometimes listening to us. And I just think that you have to make smart decisions about what do you talk about in the presence of a smart device or something like that. I put my phone and my stuff in a blackout bag when I have sensitive conversations. I do not want to be. So I might be slightly advanced in paranoia there, more than the average person. But I believe that we have to be as cautious as we can about what we share, how we do it, what we rely on. And just to give you one slight thing that I'm worried about right now, I'm kind of hitting the red button right here, Tom, is that I'm noticing that AI technology is being downloaded into our computers through updates. And that happens on your smart devices and everything. So what we're seeing right now, there's a form of whistleblower. Windows operating system is trying to get a new feature in place called Recall. And it takes a screenshot of your screen every few seconds. And then what it does is it ingests that and processes what is it seeing. Now, the stated public-facing goal of that is to help you recall, there's the name, you could say 3 months from now, hey, AI, where is my blah, blah, blah document? I think I wrote it about 3 months ago. And it will know that because it looked at all your stuff and analyzed it. And it can surface up those things that you would have otherwise forgotten. And there's a quote benefit to that. But think about what that is doing. If it's taking a screenshot, imagine what goes on your screen. When you log into your bank, when you log into this, when you're on a Zoom with somebody and you see things on your screen, it could be very, very frightening, the loss of privacy. Now, Microsoft will say that data never leaves your PC, but let me remind everybody that Microsoft also said that Recall would never be deployed on normal Windows computers. They would only be deployed on Surface laptops that have NPUs, the neural processing unit chip. But they have violated that concept, and the plumbing for this recall and for Copilot, which is their AI, that pops up every time that you're using a Windows app like Office, for example, Outlook, Excel. It's always asking you, can I help you? Can I help you? And that's the thing. Many apps nowadays are asking for permission to begin looking at what you're doing, looking at your Zoom, looking at what you're saying, offering to summarize.
Oh, he didn't load. Hang on. Damn. That's how he loaded.
Not only have I been saying that and studying that, but the late Tom Horn actually wrote a book about it. And he's like me. He felt like this could be what this thing is going to do. He calls it the wormwood prophecy, because there will be two deep impacts that will create a wormwood effect. It's not.
Oh, no way, Di.
Expected to hit.
2:15. Wow. Okay. Wow, that's because the daylight savings all changed. Wow. Okay, I got nothing lined up.
Four
Yeah,
warning
me
signs that
too.
mosquitoes love you. Let me share something that's been a game changer for me, and honestly, it's been a life.
Already and dramatically changed the face of the world. Of course, Donald Trump was elected 47th president of the United States, and that triggered a series of things that are unbelievable. Let me just go over a few of them here because they are pretty wild. How about the United Nations says it wants to buy American natural gas to avoid Trump's tariffs because Trump has been threatening tariffs. How about this? Putin says he will sell Russian oil in US dollars, or Hamas is now calling for peace. Of course, this is interesting. Hamas calling for peace is an absolute joke. It's Hamas basically beginning the process of surrendering because they know that if they are still around doing what they're doing by the time President Trump becomes president, when he's inaugurated, it's not going to look pretty for them. I think it's a pretty interesting thing to think about that. I think they fear the United States of America now, and there's a good reason why. How about this? How about the fact that Zelensky had a private phone call with President Trump and Elon Musk? Now, that's an interesting thing to think about because you know for a fact that Putin is already going to have a conversation with him or is going to have a conversation with him. We know that that's happening. How about the fact that Mexico has broken up its illegal immigration caravan that has been a long-standing over the last 4 years? It's no longer...
Shawnee, they all have their head up there. I can't help it.
Longer headed for America. Things are changing, and they're changing dramatically. And folks, I haven't even touched the surface of all the things that are
and open your Bibles or look to the screens. Oh, by the way, while you're standing, and I just said look to the screens or your Bible, that just reminded me of either look to the screens or open your Bibles, which I would like you to do both, actually, because if you have your Bibles open to 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, it's always great to write in the margins of your Bible. You say, Jack, can we do that without getting in trouble with God? The answer is yes. Your Bible, you should have Bibles, plural, over the course of your Christian life that are almost like diaries. When mine gets used up, I put a rubber band around it. It goes on the shelf. And so go to this portion of 2 Thessalonians and write in it when you hear verses today mentioned, and you're going to hear a lot of verses today. So if you're taking notes, write small. There'll be many. But before we read this, we're looking at this message series titled Signs of the Coming Antichrist. And I'm not usually a big teacher or preacher or eschatologist on the study of future things in the area of the Antichrist. I've given a couple of messages over the course of the last 30 years because I just don't focus on them, because I don't plan on meeting them ever. And as being part of the church, we'll never see him. And there's evidence in the Bible for that clearly. But, so you say, well, Jack, then why are we studying this? That's the great question. One of the reasons is because I've been a Christian for 46 years, and the things that we're seeing right now, I never thought I'd ever see. There's things going on right now that if you would have said, you'll be a Christian and you'll see this stuff happening, then what? Listen, then my conclusion to you would have been either A, Christ isn't going to come back at all, or boy, is he close. And that's the answer. Boy, is he close. If we...
Okay, this sermon's in 3 parts. It goes for 3 hours. I haven't got 3 hours, guys. So I'll switch to the 2 witnesses and their take on the 2 witnesses. They've got to get a couple of guests on.
It says it's live. It says it's live. We pull it up. There it is. Yeah, now we're live. Now everybody can see us. Sorry about that, guys. So everybody hopefully will come back in here. They were complaining that it was just a white screen. So okay, now I confirm.
They could hear us though?
Yeah, they could hear us. So I can confirm that we can actually see it now. So you were talking about the heavenly bodies, right?
Yeah, I was talking about Psalm 19. I think a lot of people are familiar with this, and if you're not, as far as
the heading on this is, who are the 2 witnesses? A new possibility with Yas Blaine. That's this guy in the middle.
The audience have any understanding of what the Mazzaroth is, which is mentioned in Job. And the word Mazzaroth is rooted in the word Netzar, which means branch, or it talks about the way. And one corrupted form of the Mazzaroth is the zodiac. So that word zodiac actually is rooted in the word zoo. And so that's why, people, I think fortune tellers and all are the the people that look at the stars, whatever, and try to guess birthday prognostication, I guess is what it is. It's a corrupted form. But Psalm 19 tells us, that the stars actually have a purpose. In Genesis 1:14, it says that he put the lights in the firmament to give light upon the earth, and that they are for signs and for seasons. And so that word season is Moedim, right? So that Moedim is when the biblical feast happens. So it's a set appoint time. And so it's kind of like a clock up in the heavens. So you've got the big hand, the little hand, and the small hands moving around. And so that's kind of part of the biblical calendar, is to understand these different, I guess, the timepiece in heaven. And so there are lights in the sky. And so Psalm 19, and I'm just going to do kind of a quick overview just to build some context here. And I can read it here. The heavens declare the glory of Elohim. The firmament shows his handiwork. Day unto day utters speech, and night unto night it shows knowledge. So he's saying the heavens, the Shamayim, it declares this, it's speaking to us, it's telling us a story. Verse 3, there is no speech nor language where their voice is not heard. Their line has gone out through.
I think the Antichrist is King Charles.
All the earth.
And the false prophet
words to the end of the
is
world.
the Pope.
And then in them he has set a tabernacle for the sun. And so you recall that the Messiah says, "In my Father's house are many mansions," it says in King James, but it's chambers, like bed chambers. So if you look at verse 4 there, scroll up to verse 5. "And then he has set a tabernacle for the sun," so that's a tent, like a canopy for the sun, which is like a bridegroom coming out of his chamber, and rejoices, a strong man, to run a race. His going forth is from the end of the heaven, and his circuit to Kufa unto the ends of it, and there is nothing hid from the heat. The law of Yahuwah is perfect, converting the soul. So this is kind of that idea that heaven is the temple. In the Hebrew, it's called Shamaim, which the word Shema means to listen. To Shamar is to guard, to regard, and then combined with Ma'im is waters. So it's kind of like saying, listen to the waters above. They're telling us a story. And so this son is saying that he's like a bridegroom. And so we know the story, I think, that the bridegroom comes and rescues the bride. And this is, throughout all of history, talking about a hero that rescues the damsel in distress from the dragon, in a sense. And so that's written up in what I call the heavenly scroll, right? Or other people call that as well. So it talks about that in Revelation 6:14, the sky vanished like a scroll being rolled up, every mountain been removed from its place. So heaven is a scroll. It's a story. You're gonna say something?
So can I summarize where we're at, what you've explained so far, just to make sure that I understand and everyone else understands. So the sun, the moon, and the stars act like a clock, right? They tell us timelines, information regarding time.
100%,
Obviously, we use that stuff for hours and months and years and stuff like that. But also, you're saying that it's there's information written that's available as they move through their course. And based on Psalm 19 here, it's the story of a hero who comes to save his bride. And then you also mentioned that it's the tabernacle or the temple, right? So do I have all that correct?
Right. Yeah, because you remember Moses was told to design the tabernacle like heaven, essentially. He was told to lay it out. And so there's a lot of, I guess you could say, like astrotheology within scriptures that talks about this. So Moses puts together a tabernacle and arranges it a certain way. He's taking the curtains, wrapping it around, making this tabernacle. And it's kind of like, I say that's the fabric of space, in a sense, that is designing the earthly tabernacle as a mirror to the heavenly tabernacle. So, like some cultures and stuff like that have reflecting pools, and that's to look back up at the heavens and stuff. And so it acts kind of like a mirror, in the same way that the Torah, the law, acts like a mirror to reflect. We have the written word, and then we have the word that's written in the heavens and the sky. And so that is the temple, right? That is where, when you look up into the heaven, you're looking up into the temple. It's a
This is the A Minute to Midnight show. Welcome. Today, this is Tony.
And Brooke. And Joni.
And it's great to have the three of us together. We've got a pretty important show today, and I will throw it to Brooke and Joni to explain why.
Okay, Tony. I guess I'll start with how it began. We're actually talking about an open vision, a vision that Jose Polanco's nephew had. First, he messaged Joni and I about something really extraordinary that happened in his life concerning his nephew one evening. And he asked me if he could send the audio of it to me because he actually grabbed his phone and audio recorded this. And I said, of course. And he asked, I knew he had sent it, he was going to send it to Joni. And he wanted to keep it between the Minute to Midnight team, the few of us, because it's very real, it's very raw, it's very personal to Jose. This is his 16-year-old nephew. You have to understand, who was unsaved at the time of this. So he sent it to me, and I began to listen to it. There's hardly really any words to explain it other than that there's a holy, reverent fear about it. Basically, I didn't have any words. I called Joni. She had not received it yet. She couldn't. We were having trouble. I tried several different ways to.
Diane, I wonder what's going on in Spain that they're getting judged with all these floods. I wonder why God's mad at them.
Send it. And
apart from why he's mad at all of us.
And I was basically stuck with it all day long, pondering upon it, because when you listen to this, you cannot go about your day thinking about anything else. It gets deep inside your spirit, your soul, every emotion. When he explains everything, you can feel what he's feeling and you can see what he's seeing. If you just close your eyes. And Joni finally received it, and she called me, of course, and I'm going to let her discuss her feeling about it. But basically, I remember her saying, I don't even want to touch this. I don't even want to touch this. There's no word. We couldn't have a conversation about it. We didn't have the words. I'm going to let her discuss, how she felt about it. And then what I can do is read a little bit. We had Jose write an intro because we did write an article and we transcribed this that we will release with the audio so people can either read it after or print it out or have people understanding it. They can follow along with it. And then we'll go from there.
Well, when I finally got a chance to listen to it, I have to say I sat down, I listened to every bit of it. And I have to be honest that I have to say I had never heard anything like that before in my entire life. And the most compelling, penetrating aspect of the whole thing is this young man was unsaved. Now, I know his family had been praying for him to be saved, but he was resistant to being saved. And it was interesting in the regard
Shawnee,
that
exactly.
It was compelling is the Lord chose this 16-year-old young man to convey a message. Now, this message,
Dahlia, we spoke about Alex Jones before. Personally, I think he's way too out there to be given, even though what he says is basically true, he's just too way out there to be press secretary. If Trump uses him, he really is going after everyone.
it's almost like Brooke was saying, it's very difficult to talk about. It's so, it's like, I think it invokes fear and trembling. And I don't just say that lightly, because a lot of people like to take Bible words and throw them around loosely. But truly, I couldn't even speak. I couldn't even talk about it. Brooke and I called her and I said, I don't even know what to, I can't even talk to you right now. I couldn't even speak about it for days. And we want to say this, that it was very difficult for us to really come on and talk about it, because the vision.
Talia, apparently Cuba's being hammered as well.
And the prophecy speak for itself. I mean, if anything, when I was listening to it, I thought this is like something that you read out of the Bible. I have never experienced something like that before in my entire life. It was 3D, He was getting it in waves. He was seeing detailed things like a movie in front of him. Now, we're not going to let out what we saw. You're going to have to listen to it. The people are going to listen to it themselves. But I know that Brooke, you know, she's sitting here with me right now. Even before we came on today, we were just like, we don't even know what to say about it. It's something, you know, it's really a holy thing. And we say that sensitively. We want to be sensitive with this vision. I think above any vision, I feel as far as it's come through to midnight.
We don't want to say too much before we put this out. We don't want it to be anyone focusing on this, on our words. What I will say before I read, what I'll do is I'll read a little bit of what Jose has to say in his introduction that we asked him to write. But basically, as Joni said, remember this young man is unsaved. And what you're about to hear, all I'll say is it's the book of Revelation unfolding before a 16-year-old unsaved boy's eyes. And he was horrified, really, at the sights because he was not saved. But people,
I remember watching this before, and the young kid says, "Beware the Catholics. Beware the Catholics."
You know the Bible and you know what's in the book and what will happen. Now he knows, you know, he doesn't have to fear it. But just imagine if it was your child or your relative that was seeing this in real time. And I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm going to read a little bit of Jose's introduction here, and then I'll give it back to Tony and we'll go from there. What Jose says is this: what you are about to read is one of the most extraordinary experiences that I, Jose Polanco, have ever encountered in my Christian life. Not a dream, not a sci-fi movie, not even a story out of a book. This was a real, raw, live experience of my 16-year-old nephew having visions in real time while he sat right before my eyes. This began in May of 2016. Around May 20th, my wife and I were completely exhausted. We decided to go to bed early that night, and it didn't take us long before we were both sound asleep. Suddenly, at 11 p.m., I heard the distant sound of someone knocking very desperately on the front door. To my surprise, it was my sister accompanied by my nephew. He was in a state of shock and clearly crying as tears streamed down his face. She explained that he was having visions in real time, and she did not know what to do with him. I took him into the bedroom, cast everyone out, locked the door for privacy. He goes on to explain a little bit more, but he ends in saying this: the depths of his vision were deeply extraordinary, as he was looking upon things that I understand will happen during the tribulation period as prophesied in the book of Revelation. And Tony, we're going to leave it at that, and I'm going to give it back to you, and we're just going to let all the listeners marinate in what they're about to hear, that they have probably as well never experienced before, just as us.
I will add that when I heard the vision myself, it was so profound. It's like, oh my gosh, you just cannot get it out of your head. It's one of those ones that probably stick with you for the rest of your life. That's extraordinary.
Listen, were you sleeping? Were you awake? Okay, so you were watching TV? Just staring at the clock. You were just staring at the clock? Okay. And what happened?
As soon as it went to 12.
Say that again?
As soon as it went to 12, I started seeing a lot of like horrible things. People what they did to each other to survive. I saw a lot of fire, a lot of blood. a lot. Not dried blood, but a lot of crimson blood.
Okay. You were wide awake.
It all hit me all of a sudden. People are crazy. Average people just, what you would think would be someone average would just come and they're crazy. They like start committing cannibalism. And they would like offer to, they make human offerings to.
It's okay, bud.
Wow.
You're good. How long you saw that for?
I'm still seeing it. I'm still seeing it.
Wow. You know, Papa? You want to know what's going on? Huh? Huh? You know what we've been talking about? What I've been talking about with your mama for a very long time?
It's greater than a war.
I know, Papi. Listen to me, baby.
And there's gonna be something worse after the war. There's not gonna be anyone that's gonna win. People will claim victory, but it's not gonna be victory. It's not gonna be for fighting for good or bad. It's just gonna be killing. Just to kill. People are just gonna start killing to kill. Not even to survive. They're just gonna kill for the satisfaction of killing. Like a
Giving over to retrobate minds. Wow.
sport.
But see, God is allowing you to see the future, Papi. Because He wants you to understand that He is real. That everything that we've been saying for a very long time is real. And God is real. He is a God of love, but He's also a God of judgment. And what He does is He wants, when you look at the watch, right? You saw 12 o'clock, you said, and then after that, everything turns bad, right? See, what it is that in God's timing, okay? Have you ever read where He says that He will come like a thief in the middle of the night, but a thief at midnight? That means when God's time clock goes to 12, He will get His bride.
I wish the uncle would just let the kid talk.
Oh.
But listen to me, baby.
It's all true.
It's all true, yes.
I've always doubted. I've always doubted my whole life. Oh.
Wait, but listen to me. Hey, listen to me, baby. It's not, listen to me. Even if you doubt it, we all doubt at one point. But listen to me. God is real, regardless of who believes in Him or not. The only thing that we need to do is to be close to Him. Just ask Him for Him to forgive our sins. Because when that time clock reaches 12 o'clock, Papi, there's nothing that you and I or anybody could do. That's long gone history. Do you understand? He's not allowing you to see this because He wants you to be afraid. He wants you to be drawn near to Him.
I'm not afraid.
I'm
crying for them.
Wow.
I'm crying for them. For the whore. afraid it's the last thing I am. I'm ready to do whatever I need to do. But and the things I say, the things I still am saying, it's so horrible. I don't understand why a man, a woman, kids could do such horrors. How could what was simple living could so in such a little time turn into such a force? It's not. But see, do you know how the problem that we all have is that at one point we allowed God out of this nation, and once he has completely.
I would be pumping him for info of what he's seeing. I'd be getting him to tell me in detail what he's seeing.
Like, people have pushed him out of the way. Like, well, we don't want you here. We want the same say. We want right for everything. You know, not giving the fair chance of honor God in our ways. So he had no choice just to leave man doing
he's conscious.
They're doing.
He's seeing an open vision.
So you can see what's coming ahead. So you can be witness to other people, so you can get right with God, so you can actually, you know, do right for yourself, for your family, for others. The Bible says that our thoughts are not his thoughts, and our ways are not his ways. That's why people don't understand. People don't get this. This is a spiritual warfare. Beware the Catholic. Huh? Beware the Catholics. Beware of the Catholics.
That's what's sealing it for me. Beware the Catholics. That's when I completely believe it.
Why?
The Jesuits.
The first word will come from them. Oh, wow. What do you mean by that, Papi? The first word of war will come from them. Okay. They will claim it's peace, but it's just corruption. I know. You're fine. Oh my gosh, Papi. It's all corruption. It's okay, I know.
Wow.
Do you remember how we're getting ready to leave Florida? Do you see why we're making backpacks, emergency backpacks, and how we're getting things done so we can need a lot more than just food. I know, Papi, but we can only do what we can do. Remember. So we're packing up food, we're gathering the things that we need. Because, see, remember, the only thing that matters here is for you to be right with God. Because once you're in the safe zone with God, then He will take us. Do you understand? He's showing you what you're seeing because He does not want to leave us behind. That's all it is to it. This is not about us. This is about us helping other people to get saved and understand the meaning of what the true God and the true love of God is. Because He so loved the world that one day He sent His begotten Son for us to be saved. And yet we pretend to know everything. We pretend that we got things figured out. But men don't have a clue of anything. Oh no, they don't have a clue at all. We're gonna make an advancement. That's not gonna be good either. with the nukes. Uh, it's gonna be a run for power of nukes. They're gonna run to see what's the biggest and baddest weapon. They're gonna be running for the nukes. It's gonna.
Wow.
Oh, you okay? It's gonna hit you hard, I know. Because remember, you probably had doubts before, but now you don't. Now you know God is real. God is a spiritual God. We live here, but inside here, there is a spiritual being that He created. And that spiritual being is called our soul. And that soul is dying to go to God, to yield yourself to God. But see, because we live in a body that is completely carnal, the carnal mind that we once were draw us to the things of the flesh and the world, but God does not want us to live like that. He wants to understand that He can come to us like the way He's doing to you right now. What He's doing, He's coming to you. He's showing things to your spirit because you're a spiritual being. You're not a human being. See, you're not a human being trying to live a spiritual experience. You are a spirit, a soul that is living on a body. Do you understand? That's why, in a way, the Bible says that we're aliens in this world.
Society is what teaches us limitations.
I know, because remember, society has rejected God.
That's why we're getting.
But listen to me, Papa. The first thing that I would suggest for you to do is to come to Jesus. Ask for Jesus to forgive your sins. Because that is the first thing that you do. Because once you do that, God is going to heal anything that He should. And He's going to create in you somebody completely different, wide awake to the spiritual world, somebody who can actually control your mind and all your carnal mind that will eventually go away, because you can defeat your body. You can defeat whatever the devil tried to put in you, in your mind. So you can be close to that. He can show you anything He wants you to see. And it's always for the best. Tonight, God might show you the future like He did for you to save your family. That's a really great thing, Papi. There's nothing wrong with that. It's nothing to be ashamed of that. God is just showing you the future so you can understand that what we've been talking is something real. That's all it is to it. He wants you to be drawn near to Him. We're not perfect. I'm not perfect. Nobody is perfect.
I think he's finished his vision.
Things are happening, my friends. This is Tony. Hope you're all doing well. We're going to get into some interesting things that I found. A certain particular organization setting up shop in Michigan when nothing's going on there, sending 350 plus semi-trucks there. And no one really has a reason why, and it ties into something much bigger we're going to get into in this video. We're also going to be talking about Oprah And of course, how she said she didn't receive $1 million, but then we have the receipts showing she did. We'll get into that. Also, of course, a ton of other stuff. This is all tying into something, my friends. You remember Hurricane Helene, right? Remember how FEMA didn't exactly do a lot over there? This is what people were claiming. Remember that? It was kind of strange. We got some new stuff with regards to that particular organization, sending 350 plus semi-trucks of supplies, trailers, to a decommissioned, of course, Air Force base in Michigan. And they sent out a flyer that something is going to happen on the 14th regarding flooding. And I'm like, what? Like, I grew up in Michigan. I know what Michigan's like. I lived here in Michigan. I lived way up, I can't get it right, here we go, Upper Michigan. I lived way up here in Michigan. Michigan Tech, which is way up there in the practically in the Upper Peninsula. I mean, it's in the Upper Peninsula, and it's practically in Canada. People like speak Canadian there practically. How's it going, eh? That's how they talk up there. They actually have a pretty deep accent, some of the people. But why are they sending all these trucks to Michigan to a decommissioned, of course, Air Force base? Remember, they were sending lots of trucks to decommissioned, of course, Walmart. You remember that whole thing some years ago? Yeah, well, I think it actually has, I'm seeing some interesting things here, my friends. It's not just that organization, but also the Pentagon. We're going to get into that as well, and much more as we get into this video. All right, let's just start here. We have, of course, Oprah. Friends at Variety are running cover for her as she recently confronted about being paid $1 million for endorsing her. She says it's not true. She did not get $1 million, of course, for endorsing her. But we have here Megyn Kelly showing the receipts on her latest video showing that her company, of course, Oprah didn't get the $1 million. She is telling the truth, technically speaking. Technically, it is true. Oprah, did not get the $1 million, correct. But her company, a separate entity from her, taxpayer-wise, did get the money. So she, of course, owns the company. So technically, she owns the company. They got the $1 million. That's kind of funny, isn't it? Check this out.
So Oprah's production company got $1 million to put that thing on. Now, it was on TMZ today. Either TMZ or one of their, contractors caught up with Oprah and said, "Hey, heard you got $1 million." She said, "No, I didn't get paid anything." She didn't mention that her company got $1 million.
So she got, obviously, the money via her company. And we heard, of course, about all these other people, Megan Thee Stallion, like Eminem, all these people getting paid a ton of money, millions of dollars left and right. That could explain a little bit how she is now $20 million in debt, even though she had $1 billion, which is absolutely ridiculous. I think 47 had like $400 million for his, and he used that money for like 11 months while she used it only for a couple months. So he spent 400 million over like 11 months, and she spent like $1 billion over like two or three, or however many months it was, 2 months or whatever it was. Yeah, not very efficient, I would say. Didn't work out too well either. But we have, of course, and I'm trying to lead up into this whole story with FEMA and of course also the Pentagon. The fact is, you have 47's doing a lot. He's going scorched earth here, my friends. He's just going through and doing everything. He hasn't even got in, and he's done $1 million.
You got to admit, Trump is doing scorched earth. His appointments, wow, they're really impressive.
Things, all right? And you're seeing all the things, all the tide being turned. You have, of course, Disney being sued by Gina Carano, being backed by Elon. Elon's heading like some sort of government efficiency thing. You got, and of course, to understand, looking at her and her campaign, she had $1 billion. Clearly, all the people at the top, lots of them, wanted her in. You got 12 Silicon Valley billionaires and tech heads, from Apple's Steve Wozniak, is how he says his name, to LinkedIn's Reid Hoffman and Shark Tank's Mark Cuban, all wanted her to win and she didn't win. So we had all these guys, and there's lots of others as well. A lot of these people were vested in her, hoping that she would win, and she did. And now we're seeing 47 going crazy, bonkers, and doing stuff. Not even getting in yet. He's just going through and doing a ton of stuff. He says he's going to put prayer back into, of course, schools. He's saying a ton of stuff. We have RFK going around doing tons of stuff as well, going scorched earth, with the FDA and everybody else. Even Fauci. I mean, goodness gracious. So you have all these things going on. He says he's going to put prayer, back in schools. I don't think these guys at the top are very happy. I don't think they want him to get in. I just kind of a thought in my head. Also, he has this dude on the border. My goodness, he's got a pit bull. He's got a pit bull on the border there. You know what I mean? And I don't think the View's very happy about this either. Check this out.
It's chilling what he just said. You realize that when he says, yes, family together, what he is saying is that U.S. citizens can be deported. What he is saying is if the parent is undocumented and they have U.S. citizen children or U.S. citizen spouse.
Yeah, so he's like saying, look, he's not saying that's required, but what he is saying is that you want to stay together as a family? Well, if you're not from here, you can't stay here. It doesn't matter if you have, offspring here or whatever. You want to stay together as a family, you're going to go back. That's basically what he's saying. He's not requiring it. If someone is a citizen, they could stay here, maybe with grandma who's here or something.
Yeah, they don't mind separating criminals from their children, but that doesn't come up. Only illegal refugees.
You know what I mean? I don't know how it would work. It depends on the situation, but this is why this is so important. And this is something no one has really seen or shown, and I'm going to show it right now. Okay? What will happen when all these people, of course, are, deported? What will happen? Let me show you. Now, they always were bragging about having high job numbers. You remember that recently? They've been talking about it. Check this out. This chart shows you exactly where all the jobs went. Notice the red line is U.S. born, of course, workers. The red line, the jobs have been stagnant since 2017. We almost have the same number of jobs today as we did back in late 2017 for those who were born here, of course, in America. Guess who got all the new jobs? Foreign-born, not so legal workers, guys that don't live here. They got all the new jobs. All the new jobs were going to them, according to the statistics. See, check it out right here. We are negative for those who are born here and positive for those who weren't for jobs.
Okay, Charlie, good night.
So as soon as they are sent back, it means two things. It means higher wages and it means more jobs. That's what it means. Because there will be less workers, so the wages will go up, supply and demand, and there will be more jobs because all those workers are gone that were taking all the jobs. So all those who were actually born, of course, here will actually have a lot more job opportunities and higher wages when they're gone. That's what it means. And a lot of people don't understand that, but that's exactly what will happen. You'll see. I'm right. But getting back to this whole thing. So clearly, what did I click on? I clicked on something. All right, here we go. Clearly, we have those that are at the top, not exactly happy with what's going on. Perhaps they are trying to do something about it to make sure his plans don't go forward. And we got some stories from, of course, the Pentagon. We got also the strange, thing that happened in Michigan, 350 plus semi-trucks. We'll get into that and much more. First of all, I got to mention food supply, 25-year shelf life. Link is in the description. 3 months worth for $6.97. We're selling the higher calorie count one now, and this seems to be what everybody wants. Anyways, it costs a little bit more, but it has more calories per day than the old one that I used to sell. Link is in the description. $6.97 for 3 months worth, and this is 2,000 plus calories a day. Link is in the description for that. You're going to definitely want to get that. We don't know exactly what's all ahead of us, my friends. Also, this book here, The Lost Ways, How You Great Your Grandfather Live Without Electricity, How to Build a Cellar, Do Things Around the House Like in the Good Old Days. Hundreds of pages illustrated. The fact is, you want that book before something happens. Get the printed version. If there's no power, you ain't going to be reading it on your computer. You ain't going to be buying it at Walmart either, so you're going to want to get it now. Link is in the description, $37 for shipping. And of course, my website, Jira Videos, and also gold and silver's link below. The fact is, gold and silver are going to go up a ton very soon here. During the Great Depression, gold went up 61%. Remember, they had a big stock market crash back then, right? Well, we got one coming up. We know it because there's 3 different charts that tell you it's going to happen. And all 3 of these charts have been right every time. We got the yield curve uninverting. Indicates the next couple of months we're going to have a stock market crash. When that happens, gold and silver is going to go through the roof even higher than it has. You definitely want to get this if you haven't already. Link is in the description. Of course, my website, Jira Videos. Go check it out as well. Let's get back to the video. So we have, of course, if you need evidence that they were all on her side, here you go. She had 3 times the money, 80% of legacy media, 99% of Hollywood, 100% of federal institutions. Needless to say, they didn't want him exactly in there, my friends. This is completely organic. He's getting in there because people want him there. And maybe they don't want him there. Obviously, these guys at the top don't. And, I mean, they're not going to be, gee, golly, Willie, I lost. Fair and square was handshake on it. Seriously, they're not that kind of person, all right? Okay, so don't be surprised if something happens before he gets in. You have this official here who was fired for telling her workers to avoid homes impacted by hurricanes in Florida. Anybody who had a sign for 47 was told, they were told to avoid that home. And let me show you this. So we got, let me show you this here first. All right.
You're nothing but a dreamer. Well, can you put your hands in the air?
With nearly 50 years of global investment expertise supporting you, that's strong and steady.
Implement best practices. Not one goes anywhere alone. Avoid homes advertising 47.
Thanks, Di. This has got about 13 minutes to go. No, it's got a bit longer.
So they need help, but they like that guy. We can't help them, right? Here she is talking about it in this interview.
Going to be interesting to see Mike's take on Trump.
3 years. This is the woman that was fired that put that out. Check this out.
That was encountered by my team, and I was on 2 different teams during this deployment. They just so happened to have the Trump campaign signage. FEMA always preaches avoidance first and then de-escalation. So this is not isolated. This is a colossal event of avoidance.
So she's saying that it was intentional. She got fired for it, but it sounds like she's saying it's because someone told her to do this, right? So you have that going on. Now, again, we're 40 plus days out from Helene, North Carolina. These people are still abandoned there. They sent 350 plus semi-trucks to Michigan for some flooding that hasn't even happened. Yet they won't send anything, hardly at all, to North Carolina. 40 plus days out.
Wonder what's going on there.
Does that make any sense?
Not at all.
You have here, of course, some kind of emergency. They have, of course, 350 semi-trucks, supplies, equipment. I think some of these are trailers that they can stay in or something. I'm not quite sure. It seems like it's a lot of stuff. Now, just to give you an idea, I used to be a guy that sold stuff online for many years. And I would sometimes buy like semi-trucks full of product. Man, that is a lot of stuff. Okay. I'm telling you, one semi-truck full of product is a lot of stuff. Now, times that by 350, okay? It's an insane amount of stuff. Why would they be sending all this to a certain specific region in Michigan that has nothing going on. I lived in Michigan. I grew up in Michigan. There's almost never flooding there. There's like nothing. There's no natural anything like that happen. I mean, in the 80s, there was like a ton of snow one time. I remember that. The only type of flooding we had maybe a couple times, like a few times, was like when there's heavy rain, and then like when you go down a hill, you know, like a little crevice or whatever you want to call it, they would have a little bit of water. That's about it. That's all you would see. You never saw like serious flooding in Michigan. There's no hurricanes going there. There's no tornadoes going there. It's just like none of that stuff happens. So why are they sending 350 plus semi trucks there to a decommissioned Air Force base? They were going to move thousands of the not so legal families there to the facility. Are they still planning on doing that? Or are they going to use these facilities for something else now? You remember the whole thing with Walmart, that they were teaming up with Walmart. You remember that? And of course, we were talking about decommissioned, Walmarts. This time it's an Air Force base. He wins. Now they're not going to move these families up there. So why do they have all the supplies still be delivered there? Are they expecting something else to be there? Other people? I don't know. It's a good question. I'm just asking questions. I don't know. It's a good question. Then you have, of course, the Pentagon. We have officials who are, reportedly discussing the possibility of not doing what 47 tells them, disobeying orders, deploying troops, of course, on our soil, getting rid of nonpartisan staffers, clean out corrupt, of course, leadership, issuing orders for, deportations.
Diane, he must need a new motor for his RV.
They don't want to do any of this stuff. That's why they were putting all that money behind her, because they didn't want him in. And they're still trying to stop it anyways. Now, some are saying it could be something like this. I'm not saying this stuff is true. I'm just saying, look, we got these interesting little things going on. What do you guys think about it? Yeah, this, of course, some people are claiming, and this is interesting. Let me point out something here. He put this out on November 10th. Okay, November 10th, as you can see right there. He said that they are going to put her as the president. And then they're going to do a number of other things. This is what he's claiming, right? That was on the 10th, 3 days ago. And then what happened the next day? Let me show you. Then we have these stories from 2 days ago showing the outlets saying, hey, he should resign, Joe, and then she can be the first, of course, female, pres. And so that kind of backs up at least the first point that he's saying, because he sort of predicted that correctly, that they wanted to put her in. And then, of course, the rest of what he's saying here is basically they would put her in, and then after that, 47 would be conveniently taken, of course, out. And this would be, blamed maybe on some country like Iran. And this would be looked at as like, oh, no, this isn't, oh, we got to do something about this. And then that would basically lead to martial, of course, law or something like that. And then that kind of dovetails into this whole.
Okay, we'll switch to Paul, and with a bit of luck, we'll catch his last song. Here we go.
Or also known as UFOs, as they're more commonly known. While the public hearing suggests that attitudes on the subject are starting to change in the U.S. government. Now listen to me. I'm telling you, they're bringing this. This is called alienism. The U.S. government. Evidence for some of the bolder claims are lacking. But a second public hearing on UAP titled Unidentified Anomalous Phenomenon Exposing the Truth took place on Capitol Hill on November 13th, yesterday. One of the most colorful testimonies came from Luis Elizondo, and I've actually tried to get him on one of my webinars, and I'm going to try again next time we do an alien webinar. He's the former head of the Pentagon.
I hope he charges you $49 to come on, Paul.
Advanced Aerial Space Threat Identification Program. Reciting his written testimony, Alonso alleged, "Let me be clear, UAPs are real. Advanced technologies not made by our government or any other government are monitoring sensitive military installations around the globe."
I'm not going to back it up, Guy.
He said. Furthermore, the U.S. is in possession of UAP technologies, as are some of our adversaries.
Jeez, you get a lot of
I
laughs
believe
out
we're
of
in
Paul
the
when
midst
he's
of a
singing.
multi-decade secretive arms race, one funded by misallocated tax dollars and hidden from our elected representatives and oversight bodies. Alonso suggested that the U.S. government has carried out secret UAP crash retrieval programs that seek to reverse engineer the obtained technology. However, he claimed he couldn't go into.
This guy bludged everyone to donate so he could buy an RV, so he can go to Hawaii and give out free books. And he never done that. He got his money, he bought his RV, and he never went to Hawaii. Wow. You remember that guy?
Detail about the specific crash retrievals because of documentation that he had signed. He said, I signed non-disclosures is what he did. When asked whether the technology was being created by
Probably cost him that much in singing lessons, Di.
private companies or non-human intelligence, Elizondo said it may be both. The hearing also featured testimony by Michael Sellenberger, a journalist and founder of the media outlet Public, who has published a story alleging that the Pentagon is running a secret UFO program called Immaculate Constellation. He claimed he's been told the program had hundreds, maybe thousands of images, videos, and files showing that UAPs exist. Now, Congresswoman Nancy Mace, the chair of the hearing.
Guys, I saw something this morning that the Pope said Jesus is a sinner, but his mother Mary will forgive him. I'm not sure if it was legit or not, but it wouldn't surprise me that's what he said.
Claims she was told that even mentioning the name of the program could get you in a lot of trouble with the intelligence agencies, saying Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna just told me if I say Immaculate Constellation, I'll be put on some kind of list.
Good on, Phil. Love you, mate.
Court warrant against me. So come on, bro, she said. When asked whether they believe the federal government is knowingly concealing this evidence of UAPs to the public, all four expert witnesses said yes. However, when asked about the nature of the UAPs, there were some mixed opinions. Strong evidence that they're non-human, higher intelligence, claimed by Dr. Tim Gellett, a retired Rear Admiral of the U.S. Navy, who led efforts to destigmatize the subject of UAPs. He said, generally do not know, said Stellenberger. Don't know, but we must find out, said Michael Gold, a member of the NASA UAP Independent Study Team. Gold then said, I think probably the vast majority of the UAPs are drones, experimental aircraft, weather conditions. But there's a percentage, he said, that isn't. And throughout the hearing, the expert witnesses and some of the representatives stressed the need for greater transparency and documentation of these UAPs. Despite often being considered an interest of crackpots and conspiracy theorists, the UAP sightings have been given renewed interest in recent years thanks to several publicized sightings. And although no blockbuster revelations have yet been made, the latest public hearings reflect its shifting attitude of UAPs within the U.S. government. This hearing is intended to help Congress and the American people to learn the extent of the programs and the activities of our government has engaged in with respect to UAPs and what knowledge it has yielded. That includes, of course, any knowledge of extraterrestrial life or technology or non-human origin, according to Subcommittee Chairwoman Mace. She said this in her opening remarks. If government-funded research on UAPs has not yielded any useful knowledge, we may need to know that too. Taxpayers deserve to know how much has been invested in this. They shouldn't be kept in the dark. To spare the Pentagon the embarrassment, she added. All right, well, what this is saying and meaning is that there is a significant amount of actual evidence of encounters with something that is not of a human origin. People are being abducted. People are being violated. Women have been impregnated. There are close encounters. There is people, eyewitnesses. There are sworn
Yeah, Paul is patriotic. I'll give him that.
affidavits. There is evidence that there are entities that are not human. I don't even deny that because I've read the Bible. The Bible told us that there was Lucifer, was a serpent that walked on his feet and spoke like a human and deceived Eve in the garden. Then we learned that later in Genesis 6 that fallen angels took on the likeness of humans and impregnated women who gave birth to men of renown, mighty men, giants, or Nephilim. That's in your Bible. That's not a fairy tale. That's not a Stephen King novel. This is what the Bible, the Word of God says. No, this is what the Bible says. I'm not wrong. I'm telling you what the Bible, read it for yourself in Genesis 6. This is the seed war. This is Satan corrupting the human DNA. This is Satan trying to destroy the human race. And God himself had to destroy the earth once to try to stop this abomination to humanity. But it came right back. And we seen it come back. And it affected tribes. Nephilim tribes filled the Holy Land to try to prevent the children of Israel from going there.
Oh, has he mentioned Mike yet? I haven't heard him mention Mike.
To God's coveted land that God had promised Abraham. And when Joshua went into the Canaan land, he had to fight the Amalekites, the Jebusites, the Moabites, all of the ites, and the termites, and the parasites, and all of the ites. Even David had to take down the giant of Goliath of the Philistines. This was part of the war, and now it's the last days. Do you really think Satan won't try it again, this time disguising it as alien from other planets and lying to the people and telling everybody that we were created by these extraterrestrials, when the truth is we were created in the image and likeness of God? But there are entities. There are underground civilizations. There are alien species. And Mike from the World is going to help us understand that. Joining us right now from somewhere around the world, Mike from around the world. Mike, how you doing tonight?
Pastor Paul, God bless you. Doing okay this evening.
All right, praise
Seems he did mention him, Di.
God, praise God. I don't know if you heard that last little dialogue here on the alien hearings, claims of UFO crash sites and reverse engineering, shaking up Congress. We've talked about this, Mike, many times.
Yeah.
Let's go into this for a minute, because these guys that were at the hearings were saying, look, we know, we met, we've seen, we have, and let's quit kidding ourselves. Too many people have had encounters with something, with entities of some sort. And we know that this is, we can read the Bible about people, we can go to Genesis 6, and we can go to a lot of places. But Mike, are we about to get some type of release or some kind of information? Or is the world, are we about to encounter lost civilizations or underground civilizations or under the sea civilizations? Are we about ready to experience something that's going to blow our minds?
Yeah, it'll probably do more than that.
Okay.
It's a very in-depth subject, right? People are still very hesitant to talk about that subject. Even with what's been disclosed, is simply, tech or craft or different things people have seen. They acknowledge that. They say, hey, they're real, they're not ours. Then, of course, this last hearing, Luis Alzano, he's going into
That's right.
introduce, well, somebody
That December the 14th was brought up last week. I remember, Di.
introduced crash retrieval. That's what they're getting at. But see, he knows what that is. That's why he's not giving up the information. Essentially, what this is about is to try and see what's known. They already know what's known. Those are special access programs, right? And so in a special access program, Congress is briefed, the Gang of Eight is briefed to a degree. And so they're trying to find out exactly what he knows.
Okay.
Right? Because everybody that comes out and gives in-depth information, something happens. Even the last, if you go look at the people who were involved in the last one, they're not so enthused to continue giving out specific information. There's a cutoff point. And so when they start doing these special access programs, there are quite a few of them, they do not want that uncovered. Because the Defense Contracts and Auditing Agency, they go over that a lot. And these are some pretty tough folks out there, right? Qualified folks who have been Delta operators and doing things like that. They don't want to cross lines with those guys because they can essentially touch everybody. And so that's a very in-depth subject. But what people will find out is that, yes, they did recover some tech. They've been recovering tech, whether by archaeology or by some of the ones who still occupy Earth. But what's been happening is unavoidable. Now it's unavoidable, which is why they're coming out with it. I think if it were a perfect scenario where Trump actually gets into office, I'm just saying that because of the opposition, but if he gets into office, he will review some of the more surface-based info, and then he'll decide if people can really take that or not. Personally, I don't think they can take it, but they're going to have a demonstration in the worst
Half the world knows already.
way anyway. Some things have been happening, Pastor Paul, things that folks can't ignore. All they have to do is keep living, and they'll be right in the middle of it. The influence is everywhere. It's all over the place, and it does give it kind of gives account why people are the way they are, and it's getting worse. It's getting a lot worse, but Congress is going to take some additional steps and attempt to control some of it when it's being disclosed to people directly, because the true disclosure is going to come, face to face, something nobody wants. Unfortunately, we live in those days.
Mike, you always think that maybe there's a day coming when the president of the United States one day walks out up in front of the podium, the presidential seal in front of him, and says, "Ladies and gentlemen, I have to make an announcement. I have to introduce somebody to you. He is from another world, and he's taking control." It's sort of like it's the moment of introducing the Antichrist. But I mean, is that possible? What I just said?
Well, yeah, but I'll tell you something. I'll say this. Trump went through hell on earth, right, for the last 4 years, four and 3 years. But remember when we had that talk, and I told you, God will often do that sometimes to build a person up. Well, everybody thought it was terrible, this and the other, right? It was actually a crucible. he was tried, stressed out every single day by every apparatus the system would throw at him. And it didn't, he kept his enthusiasm for this country. He kept going forward. I believe that was a crucible. It's the same standard God used in the Old Testament with anybody who would ever come forward and lead a people. And so what is Trump right now? He's designated a leader of people. And it kind of gives you an idea of what we're going into. A leader like that who is not scared away, right? Who will in fact, stand up to just about anything for the love of his country. It takes a person like that to get people through a very tough and different time. This is going to be a different time. I mean, a very different time.
Yes.
And even right now, you have all over the world, you have things happening. These agencies are hard pressed to keep it on the wraps, Pastor Paul. Now you have, it's all out in the open. It's right in front of people's faces. They'll eventually get exposed to it. Or, for example, a cruise ship, right? They're sitting there watching something for a day, a whole day, under the water, right? Lights moving to. How can something underwater? People are videotaping this thing. It's moving at about 500-600 miles an hour.
What?
Zipping, far out and coming back, and then two more come back, and then something else comes up and it goes out. This, that, and the other. Yeah, they were sitting there filming that for a whole day. So you have things.
Tally, he hasn't said the significance. He just said something big will happen on the 12th of December. And that's what, only four weeks away?
It's like that happening, right? And then you have the small things happening that people haven't quite gotten a hold of. Like, okay, let me name something that seems kind of controversial, weird, nothing to worry about. Florida. Remember Florida at the mall, right?
Oh, yeah. Yes, I do.
If you go back in the archives, Trump even said what's happening at the mall. Here's the funny part.
Yeah.
You look all over America, every time these kids get together and do mischievous things, what do you see? Video.
Yes, you do.
There's not one video. Not one. Then you find that odd.
Well, what happened?
You mean nobody had nobody? Not the cops,
Wow.
not the kids, not the innocent bystanders. No one has video. Don't you see that as impossible?
I see that as that it's been confiscated or erased or something happened, but obviously it had to be on the video, right?
Wow.
Well, yeah, they filmed it, but no video.
Diane, I'd hate to have money in them banks.
It's on the internet.
No, it's no.
None. Zero. And even
The guy who owns Bank of America, didn't he sell his shares a couple of weeks ago for 900 mil? Pretty sure he did.
for the kids and the people who have phones, their videos are gone.
Yes.
They're gone. So, and then nobody speaks of it anymore, right? And you have cops that come out and they say, well, we're just responding. Yeah, sure you are, right? First of all, a police officer does not get on YouTube, right?
No.
And explain to the public anything. That goes through his chain of command. You don't jump the PR mechanism of any police station and make your own comment about these things. You don't do that. Yet you had these alleged cops jumping out in front of everybody, right? Telling people, it's just nothing. That was irregular. That was very irregular, right? Not one video. You find that strange when you have that happen. Then you have stories about crashed UFOs. Then you have stories about, I believe, for 4 hours over Langley. Thousands of people have video of something hovering over Langley. They try to say it was flares, but there are lots of people with, 3-4 hour videos. A flare does not hang in the sky that long. A helicopter does not stay in that position for that long, not moving a millimeter. And this happens all the time now. This is not just, every other day.
Right.
This is, this is happening on continuous basis. So much so that the alert status has been raised over the air bases. So you have things like that happening more and more, right? And they're getting bigger. 2 weeks ago, something else about, I believe they said it was, something about 600 feet came from the sky. It looked like a big stick, right? Came down real slow right to the ocean, right? Real
What?
slow.
Are you serious, Mike?
And,
Are you
yeah,
serious?
yeah, yes. So you have things like that happening. Now, it's almost like President Trump's interview with Joe Rogan, right?
Yeah. Where did he go?
Everybody wanted to see it, but yet there's no trending on YouTube for it. There was no trending. I mean, they essentially scrubbed that video big time, right?
Yeah.
You go in the search engine, you couldn't find it. People had it backed up on X, but other than that, you couldn't find it. And Joe Rogan, it's not like he started his YouTube channel yesterday, right?
No.
So, where did that go? So you're facing an element like that, which means you have there's some folks behind it that have control over things more than the average person. But the world is kind of getting weird. This immorality in the world is going hand in hand with these sightings.
Yes. Tell us about
Because
that.
you can't separate the UFO subject with immorality, with all these people hunting spirits, and all that stuff goes together. Now that's part of the unfortunate fact. People don't want to talk. They don't want to face. They're going to face it anyway, because too many have invited those things, back again through. I'll say through Zachariah Sitchin.
Okay.
Because his writings, his interpretation of things. For example, there's a demon called Zozo, right? Or
Zozo.
People call him many different names, right? Or Bazuzu. There's one Bazuzu, Zozo, all these. Do you not know that Zachariah Sitchin kind of truncated a few names, and he actually deified Bazuzu. Bazuzu was a god over the wind, right? In the Bible, it calls him the prince of the air.
Yes.
Right? Or Lord of the Lord that flies, things of that nature.
Yeah.
Those were classifications of known entities. And so essentially what those people were doing was they were doing what God said in the scriptures, worshiping demons as gods.
Yes, they
That's what they
were.
were doing.
Yes, they were.
Right?
You're right.
So these were, so the Sumerian tales essentially tell the story of the fallen angels. I mean, intimately the fallen angels. But they deified them. They categorized the other world and all this stuff. But when you start to look at, because they've taken the entire Sumerian library and at least 200, 300, 400 times have broken that language down fresh by computers. And they came up with the same conclusion, the same interpretation. And it was not what Zachariah Sitchin had there. He kind of truncated a few things, I believe, on purpose, because he had a biased view of things around him. Anyway, those things have these ceremonies, right? There's like a funeral. Do you not know that a funeral was taken from the Sumerian culture? Certain ceremonies at a funeral to appease the spirits, so certain spirits won't come back to the living. So they were doing things like little ceremonies.
Didn't the Egyptians?
All this stuff.
Didn't the Egyptians do that, or with the Book of the Dead? I mean, that's really a funeral.
Yeah, they did. They did part of it, but the Sumerians do it just like modern day people do it today.
Okay.
Just like they do it today, right? So now here's something else. A lot of people may not know is some of these practices and cultures were part of an attempt to raise those entities back up again, to free them from the prison. So a lot of people are performing ceremonies they have no clue about. They're living a life and doing things they have no clue about, but what they're actually doing are appeasing spirits, constantly involved in ceremonies. Now, a long time ago, they made this the culture of many different places, right? Many different places. Yeah. And I sat in with a couple of guys who were talking about the American experiment. When it began, they started talking about things I never heard before, like the breakaway, coming over here to get away from some of the ritualistic known things that they were doing under a monarchy. One of the reasons why back then a king would rule your faith and government at the same time.
You're talking about the UK. Right? I mean, the monarchy of the United Kingdom.
So they broke away and came to America and put a halt to that.
Okay.
And it was so strong, it was so evil that we end up with a constitution to stay away from that evil. So that evil never rises up again. Most people today, they can't see, what's the big deal about the Constitution? Well, they don't know what they escaped from.
Let me ask
They
you,
don't know that.
remember when Prince Charles became King Charles? In the ceremony of coronation, we seen that weird dude, that weird entity go across the front, going on during the ceremony. And it was
The angel of death, it looked like.
was there? And the rumors I'm hearing is there was another ceremony going on during the public ceremony, something much darker, something much more cultic. Is that what you're saying? That the Church of England, or let's say the English monarchy, was involved in more than just what meets the eye?
Well, they were. It's their culture. And see, they see nothing wrong with it. They don't. They're not looking at it as evil or anything like that, right? It's just, you know, part of their heritage.
It's a ritual. It's a ritual of the monarchy, is what you're saying.
But it's rooted in something that actually attempts to release demonic entities onto the surface of the earth. One of those demons, by the way, changes. It creates a desire for men and women, to men and women, right? So the evidence is all over it. Now, what people will find out eventually is once they go through this UFO thing, they're going to find out certain about a war. They're going to find out about the 13 or the 14 levels above the president's clearance. There are 14 levels of government he can't even get to.
Above Trump, I mean, when President Trump
above
goes
the
in,
president. That's right. He has no access whatsoever.
He has no
And
idea what's
here's the bad part about it is you cannot fight these. You can't fight those agencies with all the weapons in the world. And these guys have access to stuff that's been on this earth for a long time. And but people will come out. They're going to tell people. They're going to say, "Hey, I have seen huge slabs of things floating right in front of my face. I've seen large, plate-shaped UFOs in which military trucks go in and out all day, and they'll hopefully they don't tell people what's on the trucks. But it's a sickness. These people are sick. That's not some glorified topic or subject. The entities themselves, in Florida, for example, they weren't aliens; those were demons.
You talk about what happened down there in that mall in Miami.
Florida. That was demonic. That had nothing to do with aliens. It was, well, you can call them the same thing.
It's the same thing
because they both do the same thing. But
but let me ask
there
you.
are people hurt by that.
Okay. Okay. So all the video we never did. I mean, we can't get our hands.
No video. Not even simple video.
It was just all confiscated or wiped away or just just taken from everybody, deleted.
They do know because they have it all now. They recorded. Too many people have an audio recording of the exact same thing. They know that the police were checking their phones to make sure that nobody had video. But now the cops don't have video either.
Right.
See, all they had to do was come forward and give one of their, dash cams or something like that to disprove the whole thing, settle. But they can't. They can't do it. They just can't do it. The kids, they were doing mischievous things, right? For about 2 seconds or something, having fun. But then something else happened, and adults started, crying out to, what in the world is that? They were just messed up for a while. And but too many little children describe the exact same thing. Something popping in and out, and
So
it was ugly.
Are you connecting the dots now, Mike, from the alien issue and the occultic rituals?
There you go. That's not open now. That's not open now.
Let's go. Okay, talk to us about this. The occultic practices and the alien phenomena.
Yeah, back in the 18 or 1700s here in the USA, of course, 17, 18, and 1900s, you had Native Americans here. Not all Native Americans were good, right? Some of those Native Americans, they knew about curses, and so did some of the people who came over here. There were things encountered when they came over here, right? Some of the generals wrote about it, of what they encountered when they came over here.
Giants.
And Yeah, those and some other things, and the UFO things, the little three little lights, they were over here right back in the Civil War. And why would they see the same thing we see today? The exact same thing. The three lights with one red light in the middle, or amber light in the middle, right? Same thing. Or the orbs, different color orbs, or different cigar-shaped UFO. They saw them. They saw them. You know, they wrote about it. So they've been seeing these things. These things come up and they observe. Just in case nobody knows, normally they don't fly out into the sky when they're finished. They go back over the oceans, go down into the oceans. Is what they normally do. So whatever they are, they've been here for a long time.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And if you think about it, a lot of people say, well, you know, we should have seen one by now. Okay, well, have you ever seen a Tasmanian devil? They've been around for a long time.
Yeah,
Never saw one of those.
Yeah.
I know there are bears all over the place, but everybody does not see a bear. Everybody does not see a snake. Everybody does not see, you know, certain animals that have been all around for a long time. They just don't see them. Same thing here. It's the exact same thing here. Of course, those days are ending. Why? Because society has become very conducive of their environment. They can only operate in an environment where people stand against Christ. So wherever you find an absence of Christ, you're going to find them. In fact, the one who, you know, in the Bible where it says, iniquity is hidden because the one who letteth will continue to let until he be taken out of the way.
Yes, it says that.
And then after he's taken out of the way, that wicked will be revealed. For I strongly believe with all my heart we're about to hit that moment where things will be revealed. And it's not going to be the good day that everybody thought it was going to be.
Yeah, you're in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. You're talking about this Antichrist. We're on the verge of the Antichrist era.
And even, that's right, even before him, you know, when iniquity is revealed, it's going to be revealed in people first.
Amen.
It's going to start surfacing in people. People will, well, in the Bible it says people start falling away.
Yes.
Right? But what's happening now? People are falling away.
Yes.
Right. So this world that we have, the promise of, it's almost like when you were young, you had a definite promise somehow. Tomorrow's not promised to anybody, but somehow you could feel you were going to be here tomorrow. That you had an opportunity the day coming up. But that's gone now. People don't have that now. They don't know what's going to be. In fact, they wake up every day hunting to find out what went wrong. Right? This is becoming a common practice with everybody. So something has altered spiritually. And I just simply think we're in the times now where darkness, especially with Trump at the helm for America, somebody who's resilient, who won't fold, who will stay on course. That's exactly what's needed before anybody goes through anything. We wouldn't survive with anybody else because they're not stubborn enough in the right areas of life. They're just
I agree. He was God
and a lot
for this moment because nobody else really, I don't know anybody who could have taken this much abuse.
They can't. God had him. He was being trained. Yeah. That's what happened. He was being strengthened. His resolve was being tested for what's coming about. Because you know what? Even these folks that are far right liberals, Pastor, you wouldn't believe
far left. Yeah.
How many are far left liberals? How many are out there who are now engaging in some? I'll tell you something. I feel better if Trump were to go ahead and get in the White House right now, because there are too many mounting up against everything. And, I mean, this country, we're going to see a split of splits is what we're going to see. We're going to see Christ haters come forward. Yeah, and I literally mean Christ haters. And unfortunately, the majority of those who hate Christ are school teachers.
What? Well, you're right. You know what he's getting ready to do? He said he's going to take the Department of Education out of Washington and split it out into all the states and let the states send the money to the states and say, you run your own school systems. Yeah. He's going to shut down the building. He's literally going to shut down the Department of Education.
Yeah. Department of Education is going to be shut down.
That is so huge. I mean, that's a gigantic decision that's going to change society, because when you take away the education, the propaganda of children, is what brought about this corrupt society. What if you could
But what's he going to replace it with? That's the question.
give the children back to the parental guidance of each local school district? Wouldn't it be the curriculum and the structure?
That'd be
of it all?
beautiful, yeah. But
Yeah.
what's he going to?
Pastor, because it only takes one principal, right, to mess the whole school up.
Yep.
Just one principal. That's it. And so we have a situation where you have these 1 or 2 teachers per school who are just inherently evil. I mean, they're evil. They don't like Christ. They have a little group now, right? They have little places where they go. I've gone to some of those places online where they go to look at what they're saying, and oh my Lord, have mercy, you would not want to read what they're saying. They hate Christ. They hate Christ. They hate the right because of Christ, not because of the policies or anything else. It's because of Christ. And these are the same people who said, do not bring prayer back into school.
Yeah.
The same people. So you have, even in Florida, you've got, it's like the,
Diane, there'd be too many houses that can't afford Wi-Fi. So I don't think it'll be online.
they're undercover, but it's only, if you look at 1 or 2 per school, these are school teachers, administrators. But President Trump, he understands what.
Then again, they did go online with the schools when COVID hit. So you're right.
In the Department of Education. That's why he's doing what he's doing. When the states have that power again, and they have no federal mandate or funding where they have to stay alive, things will change. But I'll tell you something, it's going to come with a fight of fights.
Yes.
Not only a physical fight, there'll be a large spiritual fight. Not only that, but Satan just loves shock and awe, meaning he loves to surprise people with things that will give them heart attacks. And in the Bible, it says that people's hearts are going to fail them for fear, right?
Yes.
So we're going to have a lot of uncovering going forward. We're just in that era right now, a lot of uncovering.
It's going to be incredible battles. If you think it's
it's a true uncovering of evil itself.
Yes.
It really is.
Okay.
It really is.
Let me ask you a couple more things here. I mean, we're going to get to December 14th because they have lit up my emails over this one. But before I do, let me ask you about the God of darkness. There was an article that came out, of course, about Apophis, that it's on its way, that it's going to come very close to
I didn't know that, Diane.
Scientists are saying that the Earth's gravitational pull is going to shake violently this asteroid. This asteroid is huge, and it's going to come extremely close, and they believe the violent earthquakes are going to disengage, or it's going to break apart some of the pieces of it off, or whatever. So I've been studying this for 20 years. When it was first done,
the federal department.
It's been 20 years. Now we're 4 years away. Friday the 13th. Do you believe, Mike, that there's more to this story? They named it.
Oh yeah.
Can you?
Yeah.
Is there anything you could share about this? It's Friday the 13th, April 2029.
Yeah. First of all, they've had a pretty consistent story from the beginning, except the dates, right? And except what it's going to do when it comes back. At first, they said it was going to go through a keyhole. Absolutely. Remember that?
Yes, I do.
Here's the problem. You have an object that's gone way out there into space, and it's coming back, right?
Yep.
If it comes back on target based on their calculations, then there's no problem.
Diane, is he taking that out of the federal's hands and giving it to the states like he did Roe versus Wade? Roe versus Wade. Is he basically doing the same thing, do you think?
Problem for us other than that. And I say that because there's nothing out there to obstruct that thing.
Okay.
Right? That means it's clear space. Whenever you have something that goes out there and it comes back and there's no problem, then everything is clear. Right? Everything is clear. So you can add more time to the timetable. Well, for that. But if that's not true, if we have other gravitational influences.
That's exactly what it sounds like. That's why I asked.
You can forget about that.
Okay,
Start worrying about the other thing.
Here we go with Planet X. And okay, so if we take a binary system, the influence of it and other.
You can't have Apophis.
You can't. Okay, what do you mean?
You cannot, it's going to take it off course. They calculated the return of Apophis based upon its exit, right?
Yes.
Okay, so if there is an external force that is pulling on anything, it will obstruct up that trajectory of Apophis. It's not going to follow the same track.
I agree.
It's just not going to do it.
No.
Now, if it does follow the same track, there's nothing out there.
Oh, but it's not following the same track. You know it's not. There is something out there. So you're saying we're going to know a whole lot about what's out there based on what this thing does when it comes by, or if it hits us, or if it.
When it starts coming inbound, when they actually start tracking it, right? I mean, close tracking. If they can't find it, well, then you know we're in for a bad day, right? That means something is very close. Because I'll tell you, everything is like the earthquakes the Earth has been having, right? As a binary star comes closer, it's going to vibrate everything else. Now, this happens very slowly, but it vibrates. That means all the planets should have tectonic or some type of earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. And it just so happens that they do, right?
Wow. Yeah.
All of them are vibrating,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Because when you're looking at size and ratios, that vibration is still going to shake things loose. So they should have the same increase in earthquakes and volcanism as we do. All the planets should. And if once you start tracking that, then you start to see it like, why are they in sync? And that means something else. Now, they also do the same thing. The sun, right? Now, if the sun were separate from the activity of the planets, would be okay. That means that the sun is causing all of this, right? But here's the problem. When the Earth goes through these moments of eruption and earthquakes, and Mars does the same, and even the moon starts vibrating, and things start happening on Venus and all these other planets they can actually track, the sun starts doing it too. So it's not like the sun does it first, and then everything else follows. No, the sun does it at the same time it happens on the Earth. So the same force
is
hitting
affecting
everything
the sun,
at the same
moon,
time.
the Earth, and all
There
the
you go.
planets. Which is
There
what,
you go.
Which is what Avi Loeb told me in that interview earlier this summer, past summer, is when he said, "Oh, we know where it's at, based on the mathematical calculation of the effect of the gravitational pull on every planet,
There you go.
planet, the moon and
There
the
you go.
sun. We
There you
know
go.
where it's at. We just can't
There you
see it
go.
because it's too dark out there. It's too
There you
far.
go.
It's too dark."
There you go.
But you're
That's right.
saying they're going to study this Apophis, and they did. Matter of fact, they announced right here that as Apophis goes by, they're going to send this spacecraft called NASA's OSIRIS APEX. This thing is going to follow Apophis for 18 months
Of
and
course it will.
observe the face of it to see just how much of the
Yeah.
planet has been stripped away, how much is broke off, what changes it to
Would it-
the, you know.
It would make sense, you know, when you're trying to find out if something has shifted its path, that's when you follow it.
Well, they're going to
That's when
follow
you
it.
follow
They're
it.
going to follow
That's
it.
when you, that's right. That's when you follow it. When you have to have the calculations exact. Because,
Are you worried about any pieces of it breaking off or any companion rocks following with it to hit the Earth? Are you
before it comes. To be honest, I'm really not worried about Apophis too much.
Okay,
Right?
no.
Because of other things. Now again, there are things that are detectable. It's very difficult to judge distance until we get that first influx hitting the Earth, right?
Meteorites,
the first
asteroids.
light meteor storm that we have on the Earth. Then the timing to everything else will be okay. So basically, everybody is waiting on that first meteor
Now, that's
storm.
going to happen before Apophis gets here, right?
Yes, yeah.
Can
yeah.
you give us a time on
That's
that?
the consensus.
Well,
it's extremely difficult fastball to judge the absolute times because
Okay, I understand.
a lot of us were convinced it was going to happen last year, right?
Okay.
Not this, but last year, and it didn't. It didn't. I mean, we had a slight increase in things that were untrackable, but that wasn't enough to definitely say here it is. No, we're going to know when it's here because we're going to have fires all over the place.
Okay.
Now, I can tell you right now, people will see flashes, in the sky, maybe every couple of hours or something like that. it's going to cause a lot of fires. And as you know, we can't deal with fires. So when it starts, everything will be, it'll start to burn. When that happens, then the timing will be a bit more precise, right? It's very difficult to judge because you have to go through certain regions of space where optics essentially are, you're looking at a redirection of light in some cases, gravitational wells, different forces that you have to navigate out there, which is why the Webb telescope, the J-Wave out there is doing such a good job because it's outside certain fields. They knew with Voyager 1 and 2 that we had something tugging at the entire solar system. And indeed, in the electronics and the programming of both those craft, you have adjustments for that. Every craft that goes out in space has to make adjustments for specific gravitational pulls, right? It even gives, it's for the guys at the better, they give the orders at the top, like Elon, he knows why our axis is the way it is. It's pointing at something, right? That's nothing but an offset to a larger gravitational pull, because the Earth's axis is kind of shared with other objects. It's just a shame because the narrative has been controlled by scientists who normally work for, other folks in government who protect secrets. And of course, they're not going to publish what's really happening out there. I think they will now. I think it's going to be confusing for some folks. I know for a fact they're going to have to rewrite textbooks because that's what they're talking about now. Some of the lies that have been taught that people, some people think they know about what's out there, but they really don't. And other people can't talk about it because they'll go to jail or, something bad will happen. So now that
Elon Musk.
Trump is not playing, right?
No, he's not playing.
And Elon Musk doesn't give up either, right?
No.
Because if you saw his life story, you'd be like, go Elon.
Yeah. Well, do you think so obviously Elon Musk, who's the king of space right now, he knows about Planet X. He knows exactly what's going on in this. He knows something's affecting the
Yeah, he does.
He has to. This guy can take a rocket ship into space and bring it back and drop it right in between arms.
He did everything. He did everything that the problem with Elon, because he said all of his heroes let him down, right? He has a photographic memory.
Yeah, he does.
He can, when he reads something, he can recall it. He can see the picture of it.
Instantly.
So he can remember things really good. And all the astronauts, they would not support him. So, and that made him cry. He cried over that on TV. He did, because that hurt him to his heart.
Because he knew they knew, and yet they wouldn't reveal, and that hurt him.
They wouldn't endorse anything. They wouldn't support what he was trying to do. They said it wouldn't work. But what they were doing by saying it wouldn't work was they were trying to discourage him from ever stumbling on to some of the breakthroughs they have. Because as it turns out, some of these breakthroughs and some of these magical things people see in the science, it's not that difficult. It's not. They just make it seem difficult. Well, we're humanity. We don't like simple. We have to complicate everything, right? We have to, but things are so simple, right? I guess more complicated it is, more comfortable people are. But Elon is one, he didn't give up, and he stumbled onto things, and he made things work that they said would not work. And so now he has a lot of defense contracts, right? Because you can't beat him. If you can't beat him, you better join him. So you keep eyes on him. But now, right, due to his position, things will be uncovered.
Yeah.
But the world's not going to like it. We're going to have to get through some traumatic moments of learning things.
Let's talk about, there's some more things I want to ask you about, but I got to ask you about December 14th. Let me just tell you what happened. So Heidi and I, we've been inundated with people asking, what does Mike mean by December 14th and all that. Heidi researched said, what is going to happen on December 14th everywhere? She searched everywhere. She asked AI. Here's what AI said, Mike. December 14, 2024 is a date of particular interest because it will mark a solar eclipse, specifically a total solar eclipse. This event will be visible across parts of the world, with the path of totality spanning from the Pacific Ocean through Mexico and parts of the United States and into Central America. Observers along the path of totality will experience the sky darkening as the moon fully covers the sun, creating a striking visual effect. And outside the path of this totality, a partial eclipse will be visible in other regions across North and South America. There will be an opportunity for those interested in astronomy or rare celestial events to witness something special. Mike, there's not a solar eclipse scheduled at all for this day.
No.
So what is AI doing? Is this full deception, or is that second moon?
Let me see. Let me give you a hint.
Okay.
Okay. Because I'm sure your listeners will probably attempt to emulate this. So let me give you a hint. Let me give everybody a hint of something. That should have been response number one. Response number two should be different. That's all I'll say. So that way, because you know your listeners are going to go out there and use their little AI things to try and find an answer.
Right.
So I just clarified something.
So
I
you're
just gave
saying
them a piece of
this is
information. I just gave some insight.
Bogus. This is bogus info number
Well,
one, or is
that's just response number one.
Well, can I ask you?
That should be response number one.
Okay, Talia, good night.
That's all I could come up with was Heidi. Is the
I'm out when Mike hangs up too, guys.
moon going to get in front of the sun or something that day, or do something?
Well, there are other things that have been in front of the sun. People don't look up in the daytime. That thing is so small, right? It wouldn't make a difference, even if it did. The other day, something was in front of the sun, and nobody seemed to notice, right? In fact, I believe in a few more days, something else will be in front of the sun.
Are we talking Planet
People
X?
are not looking.
Are we talking Nibiru, one of the moons?
December 13th, December 14th, right? We're going up to that date.
Yes.
I've named it something. I've named it Babylon's Hour.
Babylon's Hour.
Yeah, that's what I named it. So it's
No way. Is he saying America's going to fall?
to give context to that date, right? I'm quite serious about that date. So I just named that Babylon's Hour.
Well, that's the beast kingdom here. You're talking now.
Well,
are you moving? So we're not talking space now. Are you moving this thing into more of a political or spiritual Babylon, Mystery Babylon's Hour? I mean,
Well, Babylon falls in 1 hour, so I'm assuming it's the fall of America.
that's inclusive of quite a bit because,
it's a big
in the Bible at the end, Babylon is, it burns.
Yes, it does.
Babylon's is actually the focal point for a time, and everybody sees it, and something happens.
So
I'm just calling that Babylon's Hour.
So we're going to take this hint and come back to you next week. That Babylon's Hour. So that everybody go do your research. Go do the digging, and we'll be asking Mike a little more about it next.
I'll tell you, Pastor Paul, something spiritual is happening on this earth to people who have no relationship with Christ. That is mind blowing. Tell me how, right? I mean, unless you witness it, is almost unbelievable. But tell me how people who have not given their life to Christ in America, young people, how in the world of all times would they of all times start to have these dreams about things that even the standard Christian, if you don't look it up, you won't know it, right? Very intimate details that take a lot of time to find the answer to. It's almost like the Lord is starting to reach a whole bunch of folks all at one time, giving them almost like that, because these kids, based on what they're saying, are changing their lives. I mean, big time. Imagine a person who is a kind of a rebel, who stops everything, Pastor Paul, and just goes and gets a Bible and locks themselves in the house to get their life right now. And the feedback is always, I'm contemplating my life, my sin, right?
Wow.
So whatever's happening to them, is altering it. In one night, it alters them. This is starting to happen all over the place. I mean, with people you wouldn't suspect. Folks you wouldn't suspect is happening to.
That's true.
There's something is happening big time, and it will continue to build. And it will be a physical a very physical thing here very soon.
All right.
Because the USA, we're still in trouble. Have you noticed the fires taking place?
Yes,
Right?
it's in all the
In
way
places
in
where
New
they shouldn't
Jersey
be.
to California, places it shouldn't be.
Tinderboxes.
Yes.
Tinderboxes.
Yes.
And next week coming up, Florida could have they could have a problem, right?
Yeah, we're
That
worried
storm
about it.
coming up, they could have a problem.
We're worried.
That's not the only problem. There are more vortices that they're starting to look at that in another 3 weeks, 2 and 3 weeks could pose an issue, right? So we have weather totally out of season. We've got a special cold event that's going to be forming here very soon because the parts of the north are not like they used to be. They're just not, due to it almost seems like a even more compression of the jet stream. We're going to have some wild temperature swings.
Cold and wind. Are we going to have high wind and bitter cold?
Very high winds. You know, they're looking for, what is that, 90? They said winds in certain parts of the north this winter could reach, sustained 95 miles an hour.
That's crazy.
Kind of like California the other day, when they were having to bring those fires, it was, I believe they said they had 80, that was sustained winds of above 80, above 80.
Santa Ana winds.
Same
Santa
thing.
Ana
Yeah,
winds
same
over
thing.
80 mile an hour with fires burning. And then Colorado had 4.5 feet of snow. With 7
from one small system that just ballooned. I mean, it just ballooned, and we're going to have those back to back to back to back to back.
So you're saying it's going to be a really bad winter in the north?
And this when it starts to break, when the temperatures start to change, we're going to see something different. If people barely survived. This summer was hot, right?
Yeah, it was hot.
If they think it was hot this summer, they have no clue what we're about to step into.
This has been 3 summers in a row.
We're just getting started.
Are we going to have another real hot summer next year?
We're just getting started.
And you're saying so the winters are going to get colder and windier and bitter, and the summers are going to get hotter and hotter and hotter.
Yeah, this winter is going to be very difficult to track because I wouldn't be surprised if it go from minus 10 degrees to 80 degrees in one day in certain places.
No, that's not right. I mean,
and Florida won't be safe. They're going to have some pretty low temperatures this year, right? But moisture, that's going to release moisture in the air. We have the problem with the fronts, and the groundwater is still even anyway. But all this is part of the change.
Okay,
it's
so
a buildup.
When we talk about this again, we got a couple more things.
Yes.
People want to know about Bitcoin. Bitcoin hit 93. I think it was 87 a couple hours ago. I don't know where it's at right this now. Mike, is this thing going to go to like 120? I'm hearing some of the experts say maybe it goes to 120, 130. Are we going to see an extreme
it's going to go up there.
Extreme lows?
Oh, yeah.
What's it going to do?
Yeah, I'll stick with that. At the beginning of the year, when nobody was talking about Bitcoin, right?
Yeah.
I was saying it would hit about, up there in the hundreds, 120, 40, somewhere around there.
Will it stay there or will it crash?
Well, Bitcoin is going to fluctuate. It's going to level off, and because you have a lot of attachments to Bitcoin, but every country has jumped in on Bitcoin. The system of Bitcoin is not going anywhere. Right, it's just not.
No, it's not.
People are going to find that out with what the USA did with Bitcoin. So they'll find that out. It's like a permanent fixture. Many countries are utilizing Bitcoin to pay their bills now. You know that?
Yeah, I know. Yes.
And for all those, there's a lot of people out there. They think Bitcoin is a fluke.
No.
Well, but it's not a fluke because if you have a Bitcoin right now, you can go get your money out of PayPal. You can go get your money out the bank. All the banks by the end of this year, right, will be able to do transactions with Bitcoin, all of them. And so it's going to go up there. Right now, I'll tell you right now, it's being leveled off because lots of people have bought into Bitcoin.
Yes.
The value is they're trying their best to hold it down. I'm just telling you what I know.
But they can't hold it down because that's
it's going to pop.
Yeah.
The value is going to go up there, and it won't be an inflated value. is going to be a real value. And
It's because
those who missed out have just lost.
It's because these other countries are going to jump in, and that's just going to drive that price up because
it's just now beginning. It's just now beginning. Now I do have to say this, that same system will no doubt be utilized in the
the beast
as a control system in the kingdom of the beast.
Yeah.
And the reason why I say that is because of its resiliency and the control mechanisms you can actually put on Bitcoin, right? You cannot go and fake a Bitcoin somewhere. You can't do that.
No.
And you can't, it's hard, you can't fake a token or anything else. So that's going to be a solid system they're going to utilize for the beast system, which by the way, should pop in. And Trump at the helm, I tell you, he's got a fight on his hands because next year is when all this stuff was supposed to be released.
What is he going to do about that?
What I mean released is because you got all the retails. Well, right now, if people would go and look, a lot of retail stores are shutting down. They're consolidating.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to the online option. Why? Because cash is gone. We already live in a cashless society right now, right? Everybody's using, even to process cash, you have to go to every, store has to go to some kind of clearinghouse. So the system is coming on board. It's coming on board. I personally, I'll make a judgment call here. If Trump gets into office, he's going to have a real fight on his hands to attempt to salvage as many people.
If Trump gets into office, we know he's already in office. This is supposed to be loud. It's supposed to be live. So what's going on there? Let's see that again.
For the beast system, which by the way should pop in. And Trump at the helm, I tell you, he's got a fight on his hands because next year is when all this stuff was supposed to be released.
What is he going to do about that?
What I mean released is because you got all the retails. Well, right now, if people would go and look, a lot of retail stores are shutting down. They're consolidating.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to the online option.
Absolutely.
Why? Because cash is gone. We already live in a cashless society right now, right? Everybody's using, even to process cash, you have to go to every, store has to go to some kind of clearinghouse. So the system is coming on board. It's coming on board. I personally, I'll make a judgment call here. If Trump gets into office, he's going to have a real fight on his hands to.
Okay, if Trump gets into office, it could mean if he actually gets to January the 20th. I was just checking it out though.
To attempt to salvage as many people as he can from what the rest of the world is going to do. Because China, these other countries, he can't trust them.
No.
Pastor, before he gets in the office, I'm telling you right now, there are hits on him like you wouldn't believe. In 2016, he had about 90 death threats per day, legitimate ones. That number is skyrocketing. And now entire countries are after him and now from within America, because he's going to reorder America, everybody that affects in the wrong way they're angry. I'm telling you, they're angry now.
I know.
And so it's just going to be, it's going to be that tug of war.
For the first time in history, Donald Trump went to Washington, was never seen going into the Capitol or coming out. He was never seen going in the White House or coming out. There's never been a president, a king, a prime minister ever that they didn't have cameras watching them walking in the front door and being welcomed into the White House.
No.
This man must have more nations, drones, killers, lasers from the sky. I don't know what all that are trying teams of assassins that are literally trying to kill him from several nations, as you said. There's never been anything like this.
No, which why needs
the hand of God, and it's going to take the church praying for him daily.
That's right.
Daily,
That's right. Because the worst case scenario would be not actually him, dying. The worst case scenario is for Satan to get a hold of him and change him some sort of way. Because I know if the church does not cover President Trump, right? Because he may not be able to cover himself like everybody wants him to cover himself.
We got to do it.
Yeah, Diane, Oh, yeah, it's what he said. Yep. I had to pick it up though.
But the church can cover him, and based upon the church's prayers, he will be covered. Doesn't matter what comes.
That's right.
But if the church does not cover him, he's open to Satan. Satan loves to usurp power. So he will gladly enter into somebody at the top and tear everybody to shreds underneath. It's kind of like Judas in Genesis. You know how a lot of people say, well, Satan has children, right? And Satan can create. No, he can't create anything. And the only seed he has is his influence, those imps and everything else connected to him. And Christ talked about that because in, what was that, in John 13:18, when he was talking about Judas, whom he had chosen, the one that would break bread with him, he would lift up his heel against him. And that goes right with Genesis 3:15, right? He'll put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed, and it shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. There you go. So that's a dead giveaway. And in that same betrayal, when Jesus said, when David spoke, he spoke with me.
Yes.
Remember that?
Yes,
well,
I do.
Check this out. John 13:18 is the same as Psalms 41:9. It says, yea, mine own familiar friend, in whom I trusted, which did eat of my bread, lifted up his heel against
That's Judas. That was Judas. He ate his bread.
Same thing Jesus said.
Yeah, Jesus said, he said to Judas, he said, what you're going to do, go do it quickly.
Do it quickly.
And he dipped the sop, and he went straight out, and it says the Satan entered into him. Satan entered into him.
And so that's how his seed is in the earth. So these fallen ones have been attempting, right, to corrupt humanity yet again. If humanity is corrupted, there is no salvation.
Yeah.
And if it were about killing us, that's so easy.
That's
he don't want to kill us.
He wants us to
corrupt
worship him. He wants to corrupt
us. That's right. He wants to corrupt
Mike,
us.
One more question. It's a little thicker, but we need your thought.
I'll answer it. Go ahead.
Okay. And Heidi brought this one up, and so I've saved it for that. She said, ask Mike, the social experiment that we've been under by changing our children's curriculum, by propaganda, by mass media, by indoctrination of different the media, the Hollywood, every way. This social experiment that we've been under, but it seemed like it failed. Does Mike understand why in the world did they not convince the American people to follow this left agenda? Why did the social experiment fail?
Okay, here we go. Now here it is.
Okay.
It didn't fail.
Okay.
That's the sad part.
That's horrible.
It did not fail. Listen, sometimes when, well, just about in every case, when you have psyops happening, right? There's always a conscience switch. You have to connect with people. They have to end it themselves. In other words, once they put closure to it, they'll never investigate it and turn it over. So think of it as a seal.
Okay.
Think of it as a seal. It's sealed in. Because if people think, if they really do believe it did not work, then how they're affected and living their lives right now, they will never put into question. But here's the challenge right here. Right now, there is a there's almost a vicious element to humanity. And you can investigate, you can see those who believe in Christ. You don't have to look at the world. Just look at anybody who knows Christ. We know what we deal with in the flesh. And some of the harshest fights anybody will ever have come from fellow believers, right? In other words, any difference in doctrine, you have an instant quarrel, a fight. I mean, vicious.
Right.
You have folks who will turn from a sheep to a dragon in a heartbeat, and then play victim when it comes back. All of that has been documented a long time ago. They planned on breaking down, right, the foundations of Christians when they wrote the Constitution. Now, not the founding fathers did not do this. This happened through foreigners who slipped in, who are always trying to ruin the American, way of life. They tried to hand it over to Satan himself, which is why you have open witchcraft in this country. That began a long time ago. That's not recent. You have people like Madame Blavatsky. You have people who have had some large ceremonies. You had those who went out into space and they had a ceremony at the space station.
Wow.
A satanic ceremony.
Wow.
In the space station.
That's worse than CERN. That's worse than CERN.
If you start to look at, and I'll continue to say this, why in the world would the U.S. and indeed the world on their military patches use iconography from demonic entities?
Yeah.
Paying homage to Apollo and the dragon on a continuous basis.
You're
right? Why would they do that? And then why would their message be to master the human domain? Why? Why?
They're using the occult.
Well, that's what's all over the world. If they can make it invisible, no one fights it. And right now it's invisible and it's in full effect. It's in full effect. Now that can be unpackaged.
It's hidden in plain sight. Is what you're saying.
But there's a whole lot to unpack in that, because if people knew what they were complicit with, it would make them sick. But they would hit the denial first, saying there's no way, because a lot of people want proof, right? Oh, show me proof of this, that, and the other. You can get the proof all day. They're not going to like it, right? They just won't like it. All they have to do is misname something. All they have to do is misname something, and then people will have it. They can make it popular in culture, and people will. That's just like God can give a commandment, but if it's popular in society, people will follow society over God's commandment. They do it we do it all the time. In most cases, we're not even aware that we're doing it. So imagine a bunch of people who do love the Lord, but who are complicit with being in disobedience with the living God. And it's right there. We don't even know we're doing it.
One last question, Mike.
Yes, sir.
People there's rumors that are spreading all over the internet, and that there are FEMA trucks that are gathering in certain locations in Michigan for something. Is that just false rumors, or is there an actual, or maybe it isn't even FEMA? Is there an actual operation taking
Well,
place?
you have there are several locations right now, right? Or you're going to have some movements take place. You will.
Not just Michigan, in other words.
No, not just Michigan. It's not, it's not just for one place. Here's the deal. We have an inbound president.
Yes.
Who is going to reorder things in more of a common sense way.
Yes.
Without all the bureaucracy, the steeped in darkness and mystique. He's going to take all that away.
Yes.
Right. Now, the people who are in power are the ones he's going to remove out of the way.
Yes.
They're still in power.
Yes.
Now, if they're in power right now, do you really think they're just going to give it in? So that's almost like saying, well, the devil just quit.
Nope.
The devil just quit. And not to call all of them the devil, because what they do is they get innocent people to believe in dark doctrines.
And they get them to
and
do
then
their
that's how
bidding.
they continue to do things.
Right.
But Pastor, you really think they're going to give up their positions so quickly?
No.
As soon as Donald Trump won this election, everybody should have taken notice that on the news you started hearing this one thing. Iran is attempting to assassinate Donald Trump.
Every day you hear that.
Now, any other time in history, if somebody would say something like that, even the president would say, well, let them try. We're fully protected over here, right? The only way Donald Trump cannot be protected is if somebody opens up the door and says, come on in and get him. In other words, if anything we're able to get to Donald Trump is because somebody
is
let them
the
in.
door.
They not that the person snuck in, they let them in. But they have a couple of suspects out there, right?
No.
They're hunting some people right now, active people right now that are after Trump, right? So I'm telling you what they're doing. they normally do this to set up. They give out these stories because people start believing in this. Oh no, Iran is after Trump, and then people believe that, they eat it up. So when something happens,
Is that cover?
they'll say, Iran did it. So what
Yeah.
they're trying to do is cultivate. They're
They're
trying to cultivate.
They're using
the psyche
Iran
of
for
people.
cover. They're using Iran.
Yeah.
Will Trump even get sworn in on the inaugural steps of the Capitol, or will this be? Will he even get? I don't even know if he'll get to walk out there and put his hand on the Bible in the normal setting because of concern and security. Am I wrong by saying I'm not sure that's even going to happen?
No, I'm not either. You know, I'm in hopes, but I know that the Lord knows what He's doing.
I mean, he may have to do this. He may have to be sworn in the White House or in the Capitol, or you know, not in front of the public and out there like we've always seen. I'm not so sure he's even going to get to do it.
Well, I'll tell you what, prayer works. And I strongly believe that if the church continues to pray for Trump, then the Lord will, and because there's no way the Lord will ignore a call of unity for something of good in this nation.
Amen to that.
He's not going to ignore that. And so he's, you know, that is sealed.
We better pray then.
The bigger issue is, but see, Christians, they're being targeted too.
Oh, I know.
You got to realize that most of America has given their decision. They've given their choice. They've selected a side, right? So all those in opposition have us under the same umbrella. And we know a kingdom of the beast is coming. And there are a lot of elements within the USA that do not belong to the USA. And somehow they're going to have to go, but they're not going easily. They're not.
You know, Mike.
And so,
you know, Mike, I'm just a little country preacher. Okay. But the death threats on me have increased exponentially.
I know. Yeah, I know.
And I don't say anything about it, but you know, Heidi and everybody else that protects, prays. But I'm just saying that tonight, just so that people will pray for the Christians, for the pastors, Mike, you know, for me, for others. But I'm nothing. So if I'm nothing and they've increased exponentially, what is the hatred toward Donald Trump?
Right.
But I'm not afraid of it at all, because look, if you really believe in God and believe in Jesus, I'm not going to be stupid, okay? But if you really believe in Jesus and the blood of Christ, you're not afraid of nothing, which I know you're not. But at the same time, maybe it's good to let the Christians know, keep praying, okay? Don't let down.
That's right. That's right. You know, even Jesus, he walked through the crowd of people who wanted to kill him, and they couldn't kill him. You know why? Because he said the ones who wanted to kill him said, we can't do this because of the crowd. So I'll tell you something, Pastor Paul, the people who want you, who know about you and everything else, they do pray for you.
I know.
And they are your covering. Along with the Lord, they are your physical covering here on the earth.
Thank you, Jesus.
You know, and so, well, that's why you're dug in like an Alabama tick and nobody can get you out. So that's just the way it's going to work.
I love that one. I'm going to use that myself. I'm dug in like that. Mike, thank you so much tonight. I mean, thank you for your patience, because I know I was firing some stuff at you, but
okay, that was a long one. Good night, guys. God bless.
I really thank you tonight for being really honest with us and giving us hope and giving us the truth and giving us more to dig in and pray about. So, Mike, thank you so much. And this webinar we got coming up, Mike, on December 6th, we're going to be filming here pretty soon for you. This spiritual warfare, are you ready?
Oh, yeah.
You gotta bring.
I'm gonna unpack